What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Metal Maniacs Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Ingersoll, and I'm here with my co-host.
It's your boy, Mod.
What's up, Mod?
It was good, Jay.
Not much. So today we have a special guest host with us.
Yeah.
Please welcome Luke Forton to the show.
Hey.
What's up, dog?
What's up, Luke?
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Good. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So we have Luke on the show. If you've been listening to our show for a while, we have people on the show that are active in the music scene, that are, in active bands, that are doing things. But Luke is not one of those, but it's kind of like one of those things where Luke has played such a part in our music scene.
Absolutely.
And our musical evolution.
100%.
And he's such a music nerd, right?
Lover.
Yeah, lover, nerd.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of things that Luke
Hater.
showed me too. So
Yeah.
today we have a topic episode. We're going to talk about basically like the first decade from 2000 to 2010 metal, which is going to go hand in hand with a series that we are going to do about new metal. So I know it's an extreme metal show, but you cannot have extreme metal and deathcore and all that stuff without new metal. But we'll get back to that.
Yeah, you got to look at the face of metal as it's evolved too, and I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So Luke, we played in bands together, played so many shows together. Luke was a huge part of the scene, getting shows, creating Sweatfest.
Yeah.
I mean, booking shows. And then he did so much more after that when he moved down to Kalamazoo. So let's just start at the beginning, Luke. We'll get some of your story, and then we'll kind of start talking about how all of this ties in together. So let us know kind of how you got into music and a little bit about you, brother.
So do we go all the way back to Fruitport High School?
Yeah, I mean,
or-
that's
Yeah,
if that's where it starts.
yeah, that's where I
Probably.
met. Where I met you, both you guys. You two were playing in death metal bands when we were 16 years old, which is wild to think about to this day. And,
Accurate.
yeah.
I remember.
Playing in front of the school and everything, and I just had a yearning to listen to anything extreme, anything with, I needed the Jun, and you guys supplied that. You were like, hey man, check this out, check out Cannibal Corpse, check out Carcass, all Death, all this great music, and yeah. It's kind of started from there. You guys sparked my interest, and no turning back.
So to elaborate a little bit on that,
Yeah.
Luke, well, I got to tell this story, so I got to call you out on
Okay.
this real quick.
Call
Luke.
me out, dude.
So Luke and I played basketball in middle school together.
Oh.
So we used to hang out, listen to
Yeah.
rap music, that stuff. I had the rock influence, but like I was really into metal still,
Mhm.
And I remember the day of 9th grade, the first day of high school, I wore a Marilyn Manson shirt, and like Luke and I were acquaintances. We're not the friends, best friends that we are
not
today.
yet.
But I just remember him seeing me in the hallway, and he was just like, "Dude, you're weird," because I had a Marilyn Manson shirt, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Luke."
Nice to know you.
I mean, he's my brother now, and that's just funny how this shit evolves. But so going from there, and then Luke Luke became a great friend throughout high school after that, even though he told me I was weird. And I was
I
like,
was weird too,
Yeah,
man.
he might have liked the weird.
yeah.
He called out
Well,
the
he-
weird that he liked.
Yeah, I was going to
For
say,
real.
he's seen something in me that he wanted to be, right?
And apparently it was Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
mean,
your
it was
weird.
Marilyn Manson, so it was weird. You're not wrong.
That's a nice compliment. I
Yeah.
like your weird.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So we were trying to get Luke integrated into our music somehow. So Luke had some hip hop flavor to him.
Barely.
So we had a Room 237 band, and we were
Mhm.
like, Luke, why don't you become a DJ in our band?
Oh man, I think
Sick.
we dragged him into that.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I
Kinda.
just wanted to be around.
yeah.
You gotta love that. That's a guy that you want around. A person
Yeah.
that wants to be around. Hell yeah.
So Room 237, we were kind of a heavy band, right? We did
Yeah,
a
it
little
was-
bit
yeah.
of
We
a lot
were-
of different things.
We reflected the things that were going on
Yeah.
around us. We had done what was being done before, and we were doing the kind of like the new metalcore thing, as
Yep.
it were. Like it's just all riffs can't be Cannibal Corpse deicide riffs. So
Yeah. So it wasn't as heavy, but Luke came on as a DJ, and then we evolved right after. So what happened from there? Like,
Pretty quickly. Well, the DJ thing obviously wasn't working out.
DJ Agent Orange, just in
Yep.
case you guys are wondering.
yeah.
Had it tattooed.
Yeah.
It's covered.
It's covered.
No longer Agent Orange.
No longer Agent
I
Orange.
guess what. So I think where Jay's trying to steer this
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
and I think I know where I want to go with it at this point is how did you make the jump from the turntables to the microphone, and how did you find that you had that voice?
Honestly, I think it was Chantel. Or
Okay.
wait, well, no, it was the House of Pain cover.
Yeah, I was gonna say you did some songs
Yeah.
with vocals with
I
us.
forgot all about that.
Yeah.
It was what was that House of Pain song? Coming Up On Ya.
Oh, that, and we also did Engine Number 9 as well.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deftones.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot
So
all
that
about
might
that.
have
My
been
bad.
in that.
Yeah. That was the first time I ever tried to do vocals. And I definitely try.
Yeah.
Did you find some confidence in that though?
I did. I
There you
did.
go. There you go.
And from there, it just like I was like, okay, if I can do this, then I can be a part of something.
Yeah.
And it was just never stop.
Yeah.
I just kept going. Yeah.
It's cool, the sheer force of will. Like I didn't know I could do the Jeff Walker thing. I thought for sure that was some kind of like effect in studio. And then I had other people that sit there like, nope, that's just the way that guy sings. And I was like, I must do that.
I'm pretty sure I had conversations with you in that voice before.
Yeah, fun. I'll spare everyone that here and now.
So, long story short story long, Room 237 disbanded.
Yes.
And then you kind of hooked up with Chantel somehow, some way.
Yeah,
Started singing with them
honestly,
guys, right?
Yep. With Indrid, I don't even think we had the name at that time. I can't honestly. I was thinking about this the other day, and I cannot remember how I ended up getting, coming in contact with Carmen and Chantel.
So
Didn't we play a show with them?
Well,
with Room 237.
they used to be in a band called Slight Tempo Drop.
Yeah, I was
That's
just gonna
right.
say.
Okay.
Yeah. So when
STD.
yeah,
Yep.
Chantel will be on the show, but her episode might air before this one. She'll be on in a couple weeks, so we'll talk about this as well. But they were in Slight Tempo
That's
Drop,
right.
so I think that's maybe how that. Because remember the singer of their band, the guy he had the chin strap and the spiked hair. Can't
Mhm.
remember. Super
Jeremy.
cool dude. Yeah, super cool dude. But I think he went by the wayside. You started jamming with them.
Yep.
237 disbanded, and then that's eventually when I started coming to play with you guys.
Yeah, because you wrote like one or two songs with Indrid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the very first thing that you guys recorded and Dies recorded,
Yeah,
we were
the
all recorded with Tim at that
split.
place.
Yeah, Tim Huffnagel. That's right.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we played a ton of shows together,
Mhm.
and you were killing on vocals. We were having all kinds of cool bands come because you were making all these connections with all these bands.
I was
And
trying.
yeah, like you did a really good job, like making this a scene. You know,
Thank
we
you.
played all those shows in
Agreed.
Carmen and Chantel's basement.
Yep.
Good times.
You know, you
Loved
could
it.
go back to our If He Dies, He Dies episode, and we touch on that
Mhm.
briefly. We didn't go deep into it, but all of those shows in that basement, those guys were a part of, so that was their
Yes.
come up as well. At the
Their-
same time we were doing shit.
I'm pretty sure their first show was in the basement.
Yeah. And then stuff just started taking off from there. And then you started having festivals. Indrid kept going.
Mhm.
I think I went off and started doing Room 237 again or something like that. I had eventually left. But then I kept coming back because I played a few shows on bass. I played a
Yep.
few different things to help
Mhm.
out different shows.
Mhm.
And I remember
Yeah.
playing my last show in Ludington. It was a slammer.
Oh
We
yeah,
played that show with Dies in Ludington.
I was there for that.
Was you? Yeah,
Yep.
that show
I rode
was
with you guys.
fucking
This
insane.
is the
Yep.
first and only night I've ever done karaoke.
Really?
Only time.
And then I remember going to like some after party in Ludington and
Yep.
hanging out with Carmen and all that.
Was
That
there
was
for that.
cool. Yeah, that was a long night.
Yeah.
I think there was some substances involved in that night, keeping us up all
had
night.
to
Yeah.
have been.
Well, yeah, not for me as much back in that time, but I do remember that night, and I dressed up for the occasion. I was in like some slacks and a button down, just had the long hair swinging, like I just came out like, out of the woodwork. Like I hadn't really seen you guys that much, not as often at the time,
Yeah,
but somewhere along the way, somebody invited me up to this show. I know probably somebody knowing that I was a big Dies fan. And, we all knew each other. We're all well acquainted. I might have even been living in Kalamazoo at the time. But, yeah, I remember getting the invite and then just riding along with you and Roland and Deegan. Yeah. So, and I was hanging out. I probably was running around with Deegan at the time, which
Probably.
fun because he hangs out with people. So, so yeah, I remember that show though, and I remember the abuse that you put those bass guitars through when you were playing.
Well, that show was with a guitar.
Yeah, but I remember the bass playing too.
Yeah,
with Indrid. There was some
bass
abuse
playing
there.
going on there.
What was the bowling alley in
Yep,
Sherman?
the nerd show.
Oh yeah, the Halloween show.
Yeah, and then there was like a sweat fest. I played bass because we played 237 at that show, and I played with Indrid that same night at one of those sweat fests.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like a double duty thing. But anyway, then you moved to Kazoo.
I did.
Joined Reinventing yesterday.
I did.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what that?
It was literally I was moving my things into my apartment, and JP from Reinventing yesterday was like, "You want to try out for my band?" And I was like, "Can I move in first?"
He's all got underwear in his hand.
And it was a big joke. And I was like, "I guess, yeah, I'll give it a shot." And hit the ground running. Worked with those guys for quite a few years, and it was good times.
Yeah, you did a lot of shows because I remember coming down. Infinite Design then started.
Yep.
And we came down and played
multiple
shows in Kalamazoo with you guys.
Yeah.
Or just
mostly,
around there.
Yeah, mostly Papa Pete's, I think.
I remember playing Papa Pete's that first year, and it was a fucking mess because we couldn't hear anything. It sucked. It was terrible.
It was a learning curve.
Yeah, it was like a huge learning curve for us as a band. Like, the funny thing is then we played a few weeks after that, and we were just so fucking tight, and I was like, what happened? But it's just, it happens sometimes. And you can go watch that train wreck on YouTube on the Infinite Design page if you want to. Because I'm like, just fucking put it up. Who cares? Like,
exactly.
Some shows you suck. It doesn't matter. Even the professionals, the guys that you think are the best, shit happens. You know, I don't give a fuck. It's out there. I'm not going to say that I've never fucked up on stage or you can only see my best shit. No, it's an evolution, right? You know?
For sure.
So it was just a whole thing where it was a weird show, but other than that, we played a ton of shows because I remember coming back. You guys had played some shows when you had different members in the band,
like 100 different members.
But when your drummer that had left,
Chad,
awesome dude. Sorry, Chad, I couldn't remember
one of the
name,
best.
Yeah, such a badass dude. And then he was singing for Lee the Butcher too. And that was a sweet fucking band too.
A really great band.
Yeah,
and we played with those guys too, like a bunch.
Amazing band. Everything Chad does, he
Gold
succeeds
Gang
at. It's annoying.
He's a fucking awesome dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, when you had the other guys, you had like the drummer from 2 Stars, and then you had a new guitar player with the long hair. What was his name?
Yep, Dave Parker and Neil Malmgren from 2 Stars Burning Sun.
Yeah. So I remember coming back because you guys were doing all the in sync jogging and all that kind of shit. Like I remember that shit.
Fun times.
It was real hot. Then.
It was. It
was fun. Exactly. I stand by my statement. Fun times.
Fun times.
But by the time Infinite came back and played like that show, we were fucking just on fire, crushing it.
Yeah,
like you know. So
yes.
Long evolution, you played a ton of shows, so like Luke was just a huge part of the scene. So that's why we had him on this show. Like he goes way back in the music thing, maybe a little bit due to our efforts.
Oh yeah.
But it's kind of cool to see that and then have you go off and do your own thing. So it was like
it
was like watching my son gain his wings. I was so proud of you.
Yeah. Was doing a lot for a long time when I was just huddled up in my like private studio, just writing riffs and going to school and not having a big hand in the scene. But I felt like from the outside watching, you know, like you had a huge hand in it. You didn't even have, it wasn't even a hand in it. You were like carrying it. You were like, you know, providing it for everyone. Setting up the shows, contacting the bands, got your own band. I mean, I thought, how is he doing all of this and in the band? What? I was really mind blown at the time. I still look at people who do that and I think, man, that's a lot of work. Like that's a really lot of logistics and scheduling and contact and just kind of like staying on, you know, your grind. And more power to you. And you know, we're definitely here to give you your flowers today, as Jay would say.
Thank you.
You know, and you worked hard for it, though. I mean, and you helped carry the scene for a good stretch there. And you know that you're not doing anything musically right now. It doesn't matter to us. I mean, you definitely were a huge part of you were a bridge, if you will. And we're here to talk about that bridge today, both in terms of like what your evolution and what else was going on in the world of metal at that time.
So that's a great segue into why we chose this topic and then, wanted to have you on the show. Not only Luke is also a great tattoo artist, so like we
Thank
wanted
you.
to shine some light on that
Absolutely.
because that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Also, to me, that inspires me because he's doing something with something he's passionate about, and that's how he makes his living. So, like, always going to raise that up on a pedestal and say, that's
appreciate
awesome, using your art as a tool to make a living, and so that's
Absolutely.
badass.
Love it.
But 2000 through 2010, that's when all this was happening that we just talked about, right?
Basically, yep.
So we graduated high school in 1999. Luke was coming around. We started the band, so you got a little bit of backstory. Now, in the world of, let's just say, commercial, not local scene, because that's what we do for this podcast.
Right.
We tie in our local scene, and then we talk about everything else in the metal world as well. So that's how that ties in. 2000s, it was a different time for metal. It was kind of a strange time for metal, right?
It really was.
Because, like I alluded to before, we'll go into a new metal episode, but you got 1994 through 1999, that little section there, almost basically our high school years, spawned Korn and Deftones.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Call
and
it
that
family values.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was kind of the birth of new metal.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, this new metal stuff's coming around, and other new metal bands, System of a Down, Incubus, Snot, Linkin Park, Mudvayne, El Nino, POD, Flaw, Snot. Did I say Snot? I had to say Snot twice, so fuck y'all because
They're that
they
good.
are that good. Yes, Rage Against the Machine, Cold Chamber, etc.
And I think one of the biggest ones, Slipknot, from 2000 forward,
yeah.
right?
So yeah, I have a note here: the emergence of Slipknot and their self-titled 1999 release, and then 2001's Iowa.
Okay, there you are.
Basically kind of bridged the gap between coming from this 4 or 5 years straight, like new metal. That's what was happening. That was even bands were changing their sound, like Slayer, to adapt to this new metal wave that was coming through. But Slipknot comes on the scene, and they're like, okay, we'll take these elements of new metal, but then we'll take all this heavier shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Way more extreme.
And I felt like that brought them into the spotlight, and really heavy music, like Fairweather fans or new metal fans started liking heavier shit because of Slipknot.
Absolutely.
And I'm always going
to
give those guys what they deserve and say that because of them is the reason why metal is the way it is today. Plain and simple.
It definitely brought more extreme music to the forefront.
Yeah.
To popular culture.
Yeah, and as popular as new metal was making metal at the time, Slipknot had a way of bringing it back to heavy because it was almost, I think what was it, a fucking band with Crazy Town and Butterfly. It was like, okay, fucking full stop. This genre needs to die.
Yeah.
All of you need to go away and stop writing music now. And Slipknot, like it's just like they almost destroyed metal. Like, you know what I mean? Like
stop.
So and then that's why you get something as extreme as Slipknot, finally coming forward and saying, okay, you guys remember metal? And they really brought it back. They brought those new metal elements that we were being exposed to from 94 to 99. And then they started like dropping in little bits of death metal or just something really dark and really heavy and moody. And there was nothing friendly about that first Slipknot album. The self-title.
They really brought up the BPM, honestly.
They brought up
popular music.
Yeah. Grind.
Yeah.
They started adding that. I mean, especially with Iowa, because that's a straight fuck you to almost all new metal, even at that time, because there's not really the rap.
Mm-hmm.
There are still, they've always stuck to them like singy choruses, because that was one thing with new metal. New metal had a lot of the rap, but a lot of the new metal also had like the singy choruses, right? Like the strong singing and hooks,
Got to be on the radio.
So, due to them, at the same time, so Hatebreed's coming around in 1997, right? So they're bridging the gap between like the hardcore punk, they're kind of like the beatdown breakdowns.
Oh yeah.
And that started gaining momentum in the hardcore scene too. So it kind of just paralleled with Slipknot bringing that heavy shit into the forefront. And then you got bands like Hatebreed coming around in 97, bringing that hardcore feel to the scene too.
Yeah.
Playing these shows. And then 2002, that's when we seen Killswitch emerge. Right?
Yeah. It would have been right about that time.
Well, the first release actually was in 2007. Or, 2000.
Oh,
so they had that, like, they kind of re-released it afterwards, but, like, their big release was on 2002, the Roadrunner release.
Yeah, and that was back when, Adam D was still playing drums.
End of
right?
Heartache. Yeah. or I mean, excuse me,
Alive and Just
Alive or Just Breathing,
Yeah.
excuse me. But yeah, 2000. But then they had like their original CD that came out had some of those songs on it, but Adam D was playing drums.
Right,
So now
yeah.
we have this new wave of American heavy metal, if that's what you want to call it. To me, it's basically metalcore, right? You got your Shadows
Basically, yeah.
Fall,
Yeah.
your God Forbid, On
Yep.
Earth, All That Remains. So all this is kind of happening around at the same time,
Mhm.
you know. But due to that Slipknot, like we spoke of, all this shit's like getting exposed easier because now these labels, because it was a big thing back then, was labels, right? It's not like it is today where anybody can just
No.
release shit and everything flies under the radar if you're not keeping your eye and ear to what's going on in music, right? So
Yeah.
all this kind of is coming up at the same time. You know, this is that
True, yeah.
2000s through 2010. And then this is where you started turning me on to other music, because I was actually a big fan of nu metal. I'll be honest. I liked the Limp Bizkit.
Oh, yeah.
So did I.
I liked,
Yeah.
I loved the Slipknot.
I still
Yeah.
listen to Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, I'm gonna keep beating this drum, but you have to go back to the times. It was not readily available. Other music was not as accessible. You know,
Right.
like people get on the internet today, clickety clack, dial up, whatever. I mean, or really dare you to imagine a world like just shut it off. It doesn't really exist. You're kind of getting the radio,
Yeah.
or you're getting word of mouth from other people. The
Some videos.
yeah, some videos. There,
Some.
I mean, the internet started to become a thing, but it was just you're basically just dialing up word pages to word pages, and you're just reading articles at that time. It was not the YouTube monster that it is now.
Yeah.
You know, so you just had what was being offered to you. You
Yep.
just got what they gave you in a
Yep.
lot of ways. You had to go and look for other things. You know, you had to go out to a concert and
Yeah.
see the opening bands to even know who a new band was.
Yep.
That was a big part of it. And people now are so detached from even going to shows or anything. So, you know, it's whatever. But back then, that's what we had. That was what was being offered to us. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it was all we
so
had.
for us, like to sit here and own that we listened to those bands, hey, we were there for it. Like Limp Bizkit, Limp Bizkit
Yeah.
was real. You know, $3 bill, y'all, like in your
Yeah.
face. Like
Mhm.
I was fucking for it. You know, like let's go. And that was metal then. You know, it wasn't all death metal then. And even if there was a death metal scene, it wasn't, very prominent, and it wasn't something that you just held out for.
Right.
You want, I mean, look, I like death metal. I always have, but I'm not really stoked on a 25-person show if that's all your band can bring. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
like I lose. I'm like, good for you, man. Here's $20 and thanks. But you want to go to a concert, and if the concert's Limp Bizkit and Korn, and people are getting rowdy, like,
It was what was popular.
let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do metal.
So before we get too far
Lots
into
new
this,
metal.
I want to just name some albums that came out in 2000, just to kind of see where
Yeah.
we're at with this timeline. So
Yes, yes.
Deftones' White Pony was out. Disturbed
Wow.
the Sickness came out. Limp
Good
Bizkit
album.
kind of already had their heyday because
Yep.
Chocolate Starfish came out in 2000,
But also had
and
some,
everybody was kind of
Okay.
had some bangers, though.
Yeah.
yeah.
had
we
some bangers.
got-
They came back around with that one.
We got Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park was out.
Okay.
Marilyn Manson, Hollywood in the Shadow, whatever that is. I don't know what that is, but like he was kind of already seen his day by then. Like no
Yeah,
one really
he
kind
was
of gave a
doing
fuck about.
Weird
Oh,
music.
But we got Mudvayne LD50,
Great album.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking heavy.
Yep.
Pantera's Reinventing the Steel,
I have
We-
feelings about it.
Deftones Digital Bath. We got the Kitty album came out that year.
Mm.
And
Oh,
Flames
yeah.
Claymen. So that's where
Pretty good.
the Swedish metal was going,
Yeah.
further and further away from
More
anything that
melodic,
was heavy,
yeah.
But then you got like the New American Gospel by Lamb of God. You got Sun O, Void, and
Okay.
then Children of Bodom, and then you got Glassjaw, the
Oh, yeah.
Everything You
Yep.
Ever Wanted. But that was
Yes.
kind of their almost commercial success because they were with Ross Robinson,
It was.
right?
It was. Yeah. They recorded that album with Ross Robinson
Yeah.
at the popularity of Korn and Limp
Yep.
Bizkit and everything.
And then we got, let's just go through some. So we got Grand Declaration of a War from Mayhem, Dying Fetus, Destroy the Opposition, Morbid Angel, Gateways to Annihilation, Nevermore, Dead Heart in a Dead World, Behemoth, Thelma 6, and then we got some Niles from Decapitated. So, some death metal was still going on at that
Absolutely.
time. you
Yeah,
know?
it was. It just again, it was just not very popular, and
No.
it had to become popular through like a Slipknot, somebody to be really heavy and popular, and again, in a way that Metallica almost was prior to that. Like they were heavy and popular, but then they just kind of fell off, and then here comes Slipknot, even heavier, and because of the work that they put into their image, easily acceptable to people, very entertaining to look at Slipknot and say, I just got to know what it's about, and that brought a lot of people to metal, people that would go to not metal music shows. Not even really go to shows, but hey, I hear this Slipknot band is really interesting. So that did bring people out into the fold for the world of metal. New people.
I'll give you some 2001 releases, okay?
Yeah,
just so you can kind of see where we're at. System of a Down, Toxicity.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lateralis by Tool.
Yep.
So they came out of their sleep. But we got some Jane Doe by Converge.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah. So this is where I'm leading. After I tell you some releases of 2001, this is where I want to kind of go to you, because to me this is where this Hellfest and all of these kind of bands that you started showing me started coming to the fold. But we got Slipknot, Iowa, 2001, Opeth, Blackwater Park, which I'm still never really listened to a lot of Opeth. Sorry, guys, I just haven't.
I enjoy Opeth.
I forgot about that band.
I do it. I enjoyed some of that middle era Opeth is really good. Death metal, melodic, progressive death metal. It's good.
Avenged Sevenfold, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet.
Yep.
Slayer, God Hates Us All. Badass Drowning Pool album. Just kidding. Not really.
What?
Just kidding.
Learning new things. Learning new things all the time.
I didn't expect that. I was like, okay.
Like, I guess you say what you want on your podcast.
You know?
No, totally kidding. If you like that, I'm happy for you.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's good. Stain, Break the Cycle. So we're still like a little bit of new metal-ish going on here.
Post new metal now.
Let's see. Anything else of note? POD.
Not of note.
No, not of note.
No love lost, Sonny.
We do have a Devin Townsend.
I do appreciate
coming out.
Okay, so that is a really, really great album. I'm just gonna go ahead and gas that one up really quick for all music lovers. Anybody who needs to smile through a sad, like, put that album on. That is a fun album, very musical. Devin's insane for that one. Great, like, music and lyrical content on that one. Terry is a great album. I recommend highly.
So a couple of other ones to note. We have Dimmu Borgir, Puritanical, Eutropic, Misanthropic, whatever.
Yeah.
That came out. Some Crowbar, My Dying Bride, but Every Time I Die, Last Night in Town.
Ooh, that's a banger.
Yeah, so that's a banger. We have Seven Dust, Animosity, which I love that fucking album. I just love Seven Dust.
I really do like Seven Dust too.
Yeah,
they just write great songs.
They're good.
They basically were writing breakdowns like before.
Yeah.
They're like bringing breakdowns into popular music.
Yeah. And then you got some Arch Enemy, Wages of Sin, and some other albums too. But those were the ones of note, notable. But going into this 2000 through 2002, okay. We talked about Killswitch, but then you got BT Bam. They came around at about 2002, 2003. And then, like I just talked, we had Avenged Sevenfold, which those guys were more like hardcore almost with singing vocals. And then Bleeding Through, Evergreen Terrace, Seven Plagues, Seven Angels,
Seven Plagues.
Yeah, yep. Misery Signals, and 18 Visions.
It's a good list.
Yeah, so those are kind of, it was just a list I came off the top of my head. These were bands that you were starting to show me.
Yeah, for sure.
And so how did you get into that kind of music, and why was that something you were getting into at the time?
It was, I think you were supposed to go. It was the year before this, supposed to start, 99. I think you were supposed to go to the Milwaukee Metal Fest. I ended up going with a bunch of people that I wasn't really close with. I had a great time. Saw Earth Crisis. And that kind of,
for that band name to come up. I love that band name.
Changed a lot for me. Just seeing the hardcore scene in person. I'd only seen it in video form in those days. So that I started to see like the aggression and everything, and that kind of opened up. Earth Crisis really did open up a lot of doors for me as far as like what I was looking for. As far as like the sound that I was searching for.
Okay.
So that kind of like opened up everything into like the hardcore realm, I guess, of music was where I really leaned towards. So upon hardcore, I found metalcore, which led us here. And then I started showing you all those bands because you had showed me all these awesome death metal bands. So I thought, hey, man, this kind of sounds like that. I think you might like this as well.
Yeah.
Sure, for sure.
And
And we did.
We did.
Yeah.
We did a lot.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And like you had said earlier, like there wasn't a whole lot going on in death metal
Mhm.
in these early 2000s.
There
I mean,
really
there
wasn't.
was, but I wasn't keen to the Dying Fetus. I wasn't keen to the Demo
Yeah,
Borger at
and
this time
At
either.
that
because
time, I wasn't either.
because I obviously we were into the really heavy shit early, and then like the new metal kind of pulled me away from that a little bit because
Yeah,
I started
'cause-
really liking the Seven Dust and the Korn and all this stuff, right?
Right.
And then the Slipknot brung us back around. So then all of a sudden, getting my something I could sink my teeth in was back when then you started showing me, hey, check out Between the Bear to me. And I'm like, oh,
Yep.
fuck yeah,
Yep.
this is super badass. And then all those bands that I had just mentioned, where I wasn't really hip to the hardcore thing
Right.
either, but then that started coming into my ethos of like, oh, okay, this is a whole different thing, but it's still the same, like you said, you know.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was you showing me you had an Ozfest tape, VHS tape,
Yeah.
and it was I believe we were still in high school and we
Yeah.
were watching it, and Earth Crisis came on, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, this is
Yeah.
awesome, and you guys were both like, oh, it's
No,
okay,
no,
but like.
I was pretty high on it
Yeah.
immediately, as I recall.
But you guys were like, oh, like that's this type of music, but like we really listen to this type
Yeah.
of music,
True
and
that.
I was like, that's great too, but what's more of this stuff,
Right,
man?
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
want
right.
to hear more
exactly.
of this.
And that's fair too, because I was really captured by what song was it that they came out and did? I know it's from Gomorrah's Season Ends.
Broken Foundation.
Thank you. And at one point, and maybe just by muscle memory of rote, I could spit all of those lyrics because
yeah.
that song meant that much to me that I just had to know. I'm like, oh, I don't know what he's saying. Like his vocal, it was so slurry,
Mhm.
but it was right at that tone that I loved it. And I was like, and it's not death metal, but it was like really well written music, and it was heavy, and I was with you on in a lot of respects there. I was like, yeah, it's hardcore, and you know, I have feelings about it, but I feel strongly about this song
Right.
more than that genre of music. And I was like, this I can fuck with a lot. And I went out and I got that CD. Them dudes are excellent musicians, and the lyrics were fun. And getting to know that band over time, just by way of what they stand for, was an
Right.
interesting ride and an interesting journey and
Oh, yeah.
introspective. So I mad props to Earth Crisis. And yeah, they were one of the bands that at the time that they were underground in a way, but really massive for
Yeah.
being underground. And the
Huge
Ozfest thing really propelled
in the
them.
underground world, like the biggest underground band probably at that time.
Yeah, and they were a good representation of
For sure.
hardcore and metalcore at that time too, I feel like,
Mhm.
before the singing choruses came into play.
But I also think that they're one of the first bands that I seen that stood for something, and that was
Exactly.
big among the hardcore scene and like the hate breed. And it's like, what do you stand for? We're not just
Right.
writing about these topics that are like, you know, emotional to yourself, which would be like the new metal stuff.
Yeah.
because that was a lot of inside emotion.
Yep.
Well, these hardcore bands have a message, right?
Right.
That,
Yep.
that, like that's where so obviously derived from punk rock, which has a message most of
Absolutely.
the time, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of where it bridges the gap there. And they were one of the first bands that like, we believe in this, we stand for this, we sing about this. Where
Mhm.
these other bands, like Cold Chamber was on that same VHS, and they're talking about local and big trucks. So I don't really know. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
dude?
hard to
yeah.
put that one together.
Yeah.
But then I remember, for me personally, from the Metal Maniacs magazine,
Mm-hmm.
the Relapse page,
Oh yeah.
Dillinger Escape Plan. What is this? This
Sound-
looks cool.
Sounds very interesting.
So I bought Calculating Infinity in 1990. Well, it came out in 99. It must have been more like around the same 2000, 2001.
yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, holy fuck, what is this?
Yeah.
This is something that wasn't hardcore. It wasn't death metal. It was kind of something that was creeping in there in between in the shadows. And I was just like, what is this? What is happening
It's-
right now? It is so intense.
Yeah, it's like this
Insane.
hyper jazz metal thing happening that my brain, especially at the time, was not ready for. And I knew it had a lot of hardcore leanings,
Mhm.
but they were I was able to look immediately past that because the musicianship was just slapping me in the face the whole time, just over and over. It's like, how do you
Yeah.
like this, Nick? How do you like this, Nick?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's like your
I
big brother holding you, like, hit me, hit
I'm
me.
like-
Fucking, you can't, can you?
I absolutely like it. What is it? What are you doing
yeah,
to me?
Nick wasn't mad about it at all. He was like, "Yeah, hit me again, hit me again."
The 43% burnt again, please. I can smell it.
And that was the Jun I was looking for. real.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was a band that I was really happy to roll around and listen to with you guys at the time. That was
Oh,
a
yeah.
great one. That was a huge one.
And so that was a great, was that a tape that I had? Might have been a CD, not sure. But then they kind of put out that little EP afterwards under the running board, right? So I was like,
That
so
was before.
Oh, that was before.
Yep.
Okay, so I bought that afterwards because I wanted more of that.
Yep, it looked the exact same.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then, but I do remember Mike Patton on 2002 when they lost their vocalist. He was on that Irony is a Dead Scene, and that changed everything for me and Dillinger because I was like, holy fuck. Mike Patton on this. That was, we talked about Mike Patton obviously
Absolutely.
at length on a different episode, but when he came into the fold and he started doing all this stuff with Dillinger, that's when like Dillinger really meant something to me. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking so cool.
That was like my two favorite things coming together.
Yeah.
It was like chocolate and peanut butter for me.
That was a Reese's peanut butter cup of fucking grindcore right there or whatever it was. I don't know, just some crazy.
It was madness.
Yeah, but I love that. And then you got Greg Puciato in Miss Machine in 2004, which I personally love that era of Dillinger too. I liked all of the stuff he was on, dude.
Yep.
When we seen him live, fuck, they were so badass. But I just really liked Dillinger when they started introducing some of the singing and some of the weird other stuff that they could offer besides just the crazy guitar going at 900 miles an hour across the fucking fretboard.
They hit the scene hard once Greg joined the band too. I swear that first year that he was in the band, I think I saw them 5 times in 1 year.
Wow.
They were everywhere.
And they were just, if you've never seen a Dillinger show, get a time machine.
Yep.
I think
Because you fucked yourself.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's not happening by all accounts. It sounds like it's not happening.
Get a time machine.
Yeah.
So I think we're about to go into a territory of music that I was listening to some things here in this this next bit where I didn't stick around as much throughout the Dillinger Escape Plan, but I was very hip to Between the Buried and Me while they were coming up. I felt like that was so. Whereas I understood the Dillinger Escape Plan and the hardcore and the jazz thing, and I appreciated it, and I can't say anything bad about it, but my interest was more captivated by, say, Between the Buried and Me, because I felt like they did almost the same thing, Luke.
Right.
But in a way, they were just more progressive in their songwriting, and it just seemed as chaotic as it was, especially the Silent Circus, right? Like, that's no just walk in the park. That's a lot of chaos,
Time signatures all over the place.
It's crazy, but I still feel like in the context of what I was looking for, they were doing it a little bit more for my tastes. Between the Buried and Me in that era, and still to what they're doing today, like an amazing band still to this day, and I've enjoyed them all along, especially you, Jay. It's funny how we've had different times where we've liked Between the Buried and Me back and forth, where it was like, have you listened to the new one? Not yet. Well, dig it. It's good, or and vice versa, the other way around. Dig it. It's good. So that's a band that I was definitely hip to. And then Black Dahlia Murder, I see when they were coming up, they were still carrying the flag, but, they were just not as, they didn't gain some popularity for a time. It seems like they needed the other things to happen before their name could be propelled into what it became. And what it is.
So we'll get into that here in a second. Just while we're on to 2002, I'll read you off some titles. So we got Macedon Remission. You got Korn Untouchables, where this is where I feel like we're starting to see the decline of nu metal.
What was that album?
What, Korn Untouchables?
I don't even know if I know what that
is.
That one was, I mean, Korn I felt like was kind of coming back with that one from Follow the Leader being weak and Issues being kind of just not appreciated.
Was that album after Issues?
Yeah, it was their 5th release.
Yeah, for me, I knew nothing about it. Korn was so far off of my radar because I was into Dillinger at that time.
If that was a Jeopardy question, I would have got that wrong, man.
So again, and this does fall in line closer with my taste at the time, which was I liked things that were heavier. Korn was coming back around to heavy, I felt like, in ways with this one, but I understand it wasn't the heaviest thing out there, but I did appreciate Korn coming back around, and I feel like it does speak to what Slipknot had done for the genre still. As if we're keeping it in the context of like where there was a pivot in metal, it was definitely with Slipknot and their release, and how it swung, like it just kind of swung things back around, and Korn started to get heavier. I feel like too. They were allowed to be heavier.
Yeah, they raised the bar, definitely.
They were really kind of poppy with those last 2 releases, even though I contest that Issues had some really sweet bangers on it.
So we got Macedon Remission, like I said, Korn Untouchables. We got Opeth, Deliverance. We have Irony is a Dead Scene by Dillinger Escape Plan, like I spoke of. We have Glassjaw, Worship and Tribute.
Banger.
So,
Yeah, heavy.
System of a Down, Toxicity, was that just a single then? Or is that a whole album?
That's
Is that a whole album?
I think.
That would be that. Then
Because
would
I don't
be the
know
whole
too
album.
much about them. Okay. Then
Is that the one? That's the one with like the
Hollywood. Yeah,
Hollywood sign,
Yeah.
right?
says Toxicity is a Hollywood. Logo.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
and then leaning towards kind of maybe what Nick likes here, Chevelle, Wonder What's Next, and then Breaking Benjamin out in these years, Saturate.
I love
Yeah.
I love both of those bands and those albums, and they're definitely leaning on the hard rock side. And at no point do I expect Metalheads to enjoy those as thoroughly as I did, but I sure did.
So we got Kill Switch, Elaborate Just Breathing, like I said.
Great
Between the
album.
Beard and Me, self-titled, came out this year, 2002 we're speaking of. Today's the Day, Sadness Will Prevail. That was a cool album.
That
We
was
got
a
In
good
Flames,
album.
Reroute to Remain. Dude still on with his whiny fucking vocal during this time. Like, the music was okay, but I just... You got,
It's true. I'm sorry, man.
You got Sons of Northern Darkness by Immortal, and right next to it on the shelf, Trapped, self-titled.
Take me back.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
So you got Cannibal Corpse, Gore Obsessed, Norma Jean, Bless the Martyr, and Kiss the Child. Now that
Ooh.
album was a fucking slapper.
That was a genre banger right there.
Yeah. Noisy.
Mudvayne, The End of All Things to Come.
Good album. Fucking loved it.
Some Dark Tranquility, 9 Inch Nails in here. High on Fire. So we got some like doom metal coming to the forefront here. Would you call it High on Fire doom metal?
Doom rock.
Doom-
They're
what
almost.
would you call them?
They're almost
Doom,
black and
yeah.
roll. They're
Yeah, I would say black and roll.
really close to that.
Would be really
but
close.
they don't do too much in the way of. They do things that black and roll does. Yeah, they're a fun band. Queens of the Stone Age type of band. On like on the uptick. Like Queens of the Stone Age when they're fast and mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of High on Fire. I love. They're a great band live
Is it
too. A lot
Matt-
of energy. Yep.
Matt Pike.
Yep.
right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So you got some Hate Breed, Perseverance.
Ooh.
Yep.
Brutal.
We got Cattle Decapitation to Serve Man. So we have the death metal gods emerging at this time right here.
Just crawling out of the slime.
Yeah,
Those are
just crawling
probably
out
some
of the
hard
slime.
listens.
Then you got some OTEP, and I'm just good on that band and anything they've ever done. So that's
Just
just
good
me.
on it. Hey,
I don't know if
I-
I've ever heard anything. they've
OTEP
done.
OTEP not
you're
bad,
good.
but
You're
then
good, bro.
also some bad stuff
You're
there
good.
for sure.
The girl singer, right?
Yeah.
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 Let's run through 2003 real quick, and then we'll
Yeah.
jump into 2004. So 2003, we have Saint Anger.
I don't know, man.
Yep.
Just what do you want me to say? Something
Yeah,
about a snare drum? I
I-
don't care.
Yeah, I
Like,
didn't really
just-
care. You got self-titled Deftones during this time. You have Evanescence. They were big at this time. Must have been at the same time that those vampire movies were out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those were
Twilight,
called.
maybe?
Yeah, those movies.
I only worked at a video store. That's how I know that
Okay,
shit.
that's perfect,
That's
though.
the only excuse I have for knowing that shit.
So some other
I'm pretty sure I saw a couple of them in the theater.
Didn't have to own that.
we know what Luke was trying to get during that.
Luke just said, "Hey guys, watch me eat this frog."
Yeah, he's like, yeah. You got to do the hard shit to get to the other stuff, Luke.
Hey, at the end of the day, though, I'll give it up. Vampires are pretty cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
man.
all right. That's all
Oh,
right.
yeah.
So let's see what else that we got. We have a few other things. Anything else of note during? So Silent Circus came out this year in 2003. So a banger by BT Bam, and
Oh,
then you
man,
got As
yeah.
the Palaces Burn by Lamb of God.
Absolutely
So
crushing.
that's
Just
that's
one of
a
the.
fucking sweet album.
I mean, for the times too. I just wish, going with the list that you just said, is there anything heavier? I don't think there's anything heavier than that Lamb of God album. I mean, there might
At
have.
the time,
It was really hard to find something that heavy, like Kill Switch Engage. Shadows Fall, I think existed at this time, or maybe we're just about to come up on them, but still, nope, not as heavy as what Lamb of God was doing then.
that album rips.
Oh,
too.
dude, so good.
Yeah.
I'd listen to it over and over
Oh,
and
yeah.
over and over. That was how good that album was. You got
I did too.
Trivium, Ember 2 Inferno, which I've never really been big into Trivium.
Me either.
No reason for one or the other, just not. You got Children of Bodom, Hate Crew
Same.
Death Roll,
Mm.
some more Sun O. Static X album, Shadow Zone, don't know nothing about it.
No,
Nope.
Anthrax, We Come For You All. What was that about, Nick? You're the Anthrax
God, that's
expert
got to
on
be
this
You're the
like,
guy.
yeah,
podcast.
I know I am, and as you can see, I'm not repping them very well today. I don't have the hat on as usual, but probably one of the albums of theirs that I listened to the absolute least.
Okay, makes sense.
I think that
I don't know if
following-
I've ever heard it.
It followed up Volume 8, and at which point I had just kind of like decided that whatever they do next, I'm kind of like disinterested in what they're doing. I'll be honest, like the John Bush era started out great, but they definitely lost me along the way. And again, all of those bands did, and I was definitely looking for something different at that time. So I think it was more of a return to form, as history would tell. It was better than Volume 8. It was more hard, heavy Anthrax, as you maybe would come to know, and a sign of where they would go when they ultimately would reintroduce Joey Belladonna back into the band, but just kind of overlooked. And I didn't listen to it at the time, so has no meaning. It has no real close meaning to me. At the end of the day, I wasn't hip to it, unfortunately.
Okay. So then we got Dimmu Borgir, Death Cult Armageddon. That is an album that's been held within high regard of the black metal, death, black scene. And then the Black Dahlia Murder on Hallowed. So we kind of spoke on that a little bit. But this is where these monsters arrive onto the scene with a major release, right? Because I think they had like some demos or EPs before that.
Yeah, small ones.
Yeah, this is where they come on the scene. Same this year, you got As I Lay Dying, Final World's Collapse. I remember how heavy that was. Anything else of note? That's about it. So the Black Dahlia Murder, I just want to talk about that a little bit. I remember you and I were hanging out, and we went to FYE, I believe. We went to the mall, got some food or something. We were just hanging out. And this is when I lived across town on Laketon or whatever.
Yeah, over off Laketon, or off of Getty.
And we went to the CD store, and you were like, hey, buy this. And it was Black Dahlia Murder on Hallowed. Yeah, and you were like, buy this, Glass Casket, We Are Here Today. And I remember listening to both those, like, fuck yeah, Luke, thanks so much for that, because those CDs I still spin to this day.
Those are two monsters of albums, man.
I listened,
badass albums.
I remember like sitting on my computer at my parents' house, and like I think like MTV2 was a thing on the satellite dish.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a string of videos playing, and I hear what the first two tracks. What are they? Is it Funeral Thirst?
Funeral Thirst. There was a video for that one.
Yep, and they're in the cemetery playing, and the drummer's just caped up in the hoodie, and I just looked over my shoulder. There's the one thing like just tear my eyes away from my screen, and I look over at this, and these guys are just going ape shit in a cemetery, and I'm like,
throwback video too.
Instant fan. Like, this is the greatest band of all time right now, and I'm watching it as it's happening, because I've never heard of this band before, and that was my introduction to them. Didn't know where they were from. So it wouldn't have mattered if they were from across town, across the state, or across the country, across the world. Yep. Yeah. I was like, they're on TV and they're repping death metal as it should be. And I was like, immediately taken with that band. I was like, fuck, I'm a fan of this band right now.
I was so shocked to hear they're from Detroit.
Yeah,
I thought they were European when I heard them first.
Yeah, absolutely. They had that sound.
Okay. So I'm going to go through one more year here just as we were talking about that. So we're in 2004 now. And so Ashes of the Wake. Oh, I'm sorry. As a Palaces Burn, that was a great album.
Yeah.
But in 2004, Ashes of the Wake, Lamb of God came out. Now, that was one of the albums that I could not take out of the CD player. I was, like, so enthralled by what the fuck they were doing. I was just like, this is heavy. This is pissed.
That was the one that kind of opened a lot of doors for them.
Yeah,
absolutely. For sure. So I'm still going to be the guy that says As the Palaces Burn is the best Lamb of God album, in my opinion.
Okay.
Wait, the previous one, right? And then
I think so.
Ashes of the Wake.
And now we're up to Ashes of the Wake.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one that has all their like popular shit.
Omerta. So that one's going to be their most popular work.
Right.
More people are going to say that's their favorite. But to me, I was already 2-1 over by the previous effort. And I look at that album and I think it's equal. And it's just as good, and it's just part 2 of that series. To me, those two albums, but it's better production, and I feel that when I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh man, it's cleaner. I wish those other songs were as clean as this one, but the songwriting is also still there, and it still captivated me in ways, and it was a great album in terms of it breathing, like we talk about with the musicianship and the instrumentals and just
songwriting.
Yeah, great songwriting. Luke, you wanted to speak to it too.
I was just saying, like, I don't think you're alone in that opinion.
Right. I mean, those 2 albums are their best albums in my opinion. And
agreed.
You can argue one better than the other, and I'm going to say they're as good as one is as good as the other. Both. I listened to both of them back to back.
I just think Ashes, like you said, though, when you bring into that cleaner production, that more to the forefront with the label
It's
being a
beefed
more
up.
staple, yeah, it's just
You
like
feel it.
everything punches. You got
really
these,
feel
like
it.
talking parts in between that just like everybody will still sing that at the concert. That was like their calling, you know. So 2004, we got some Slipknot Volume 3. At this time, I was kind of already out of Slipknot.
I was too.
For some reason, like right after Iowa or even sometime in Iowa, I was already done with Slipknot, which was weird. Probably because I was getting back into the heavy stuff,
right.
the Black Dahlia Murder and all these bands. And then
I
was
came
just kinda
back
like,
to Slipknot though.
On this
Yeah?
album,
Yeah.
on this
What
album, I
when?
did too.
Later, like
way later.
Yeah, probably like 2000 after 2015, I would say.
Oh, okay. So like almost recent,
yeah.
I
which
liked.
is almost 10 years ago. So
I liked
but-
Recent.
Volume 3. It reminded me more of their first effort, even than Iowa in ways. Just like some of the raw guitar tones, and I could see that they were going to maintain trying to write radio-friendly songs, but still also have like heavy songs like as B-sides, or that you could maybe count on one of those being presented to you live. I felt good about Volume 3, but in ways I felt like it wasn't as heavy as I would have liked it to be. And I
Yeah.
remember showing it to you at a point in time when we were hanging out back then, and I was
Yeah.
like, it's not bad. It reminds me of the first album in ways, like the self-titled album, but at the same time, they're presenting more of that songwriting that's going to get them on the radio, and they're still not as heavy as I'd like them to be. Like nothing is as heavy
Right.
as that first album.
Yeah.
Like where I hear that first sound come on, you hit play on that album, and then immediately the red visor comes down. And it doesn't come up until the Slipknot is done playing that album, and until that album turns off. The red visor stays down when that album comes on.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's kind of weird because they did it backwards. They're like, fuck you to everything. We'll have enough elements to get people into our stuff, and then we'll just play some heavy shit. And then they're like, wait, maybe we need to do some radio stuff now. And it's like,
To the point of Stone Sour,
Right.
to the point
That's
of
weird.
Corey motherfucking Taylor. Like, I
yeah,
didn't need all that.
he's kind of, you take him or leave him. I do like some
I do
Stone
like-
Sour, though, too.
I do
so
like him
I'm-
as a person,
I'm guilty as that.
He's a
so.
funny guy.
He's got a good perspective and offerings and insight that I value.
So 2004 Slipknot Volume 3, Mastodon, Leviathan. We got some Converge, You Fail Me.
Unfamiliar.
We have that
Awesome
Jay-Z
album.
and Linkin Park collab that year. So
Was
that
it-
was super big. Not in anything that was
was it
related
Papercut?
relative to me. What's
Wh-
that?
Which song was it?
Well, they did a whole album.
whole
Yeah,
album?
the whole
Oh,
album.
okay, I'm
Collision
sorry.
Course.
I may be familiar with a
Think that-
track from it then, and not
So,
an album. Wow.
Megadeth, the system failed, so we started seeing Megadeth come back around, and they're starting to bring some of them thrash elements back in. Killswitch engaged the End of Heartache, introducing Howard to the band,
Yeah.
Ooh.
but
That was-
still keeping their momentum to the fucking them guys.
Yep.
Something about them, they went far and beyond any of those metalcore kind of bands. I think.
They really did.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's they're once they got Howard in the band was definitely the peak of their popularity. I think when
No,
they
you're right.
really like launched off, and
He repped that band so well. Like, he was born to be the singer of that band at that time when Jesse, wasn't in a good space for it. He wasn't going to be able to do it, or decided it was for his best interest to not be a part of that band. When Howard stepped in, he was everything that band needed for their music and for what they were already doing and singing about. Like, and I think our buddy Deegan said that, like when we all saw them live together at, I want to say, the Intersection, yeah, where it is currently. And he was like, he was everything I needed him to be that night. You know what I mean? He was everything that Killswitch is to me when he was on that stage. And I think, his energy and his vocals really brought them out.
I have a hot take. I still only listen to Howard Killswitch.
Really?
I don't rock with Jesse.
Fair.
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
me, they're equal all the way across the board. I love
I have nothing against Jesse, but for my own personal
Yeah.
taste,
just like Howard.
I
yeah.
only like
Yeah.
Howard.
Yeah.
Well, Howard has a special place in my heart because of you also too. Because
Blood Has
of
Been Shed.
Yeah, because of Blood Has Been Shed. And I just remember when you showed me that shit, I just loved that so much. And then to know that the drummer and the
Mhm.
singer came. and-
Justin?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and joined Killswitch, and then they became what they became on
Yep.
almost a commercial metal front. But they still write really heavy shit.
Oh yeah, they do.
So, still talking about 2004 here. Let's get through this list real quick. Breaking Benjamin, We Are Not Alone. Not very familiar. That's Nick's territory. But
Really
Behemoth
poppy.
Demigod. This is where I got introduced to Behemoth. I remember seeing the video because Headbangers Ball came back around and Jimmy Josta was hosting it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember seeing this video, and these guys are dressed in this garb, and this is just the heaviest shit that I've heard in forever. I mean, it surpassed anything I've heard in a long time. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I went out and got this CD immediately. But we got Meshuggah Eye, Necrophagous Epitaph come out this year. In Flames, Soundtrack to Your Escape. We're still doing this in Flames. What the fuck is going on here, buddy? Cannibal Corpse, The Wretched Spawn. They're still doing their brand of death metal here.
Yep.
You got Winter Sun, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but very popular underground kind of like metal band, but they kind of lean more in the underground black metal from across the sea type thing.
I don't think I've ever heard that band.
No, okay,
Nope,
yeah, they're pretty popular. And then we got Cattle Decap, Humanure, Atreyu, The Curse. I'm good on those guys.
Good.
Same.
Let me ask both of you guys, and I know you might have a take on this. Bring Me the Horizon. Have you ever heard of those? Heard them guys?
Yep.
There's that one song, the We Will Never Sleep because sleep is for the weak or something like that. That song's okay.
Okay. I just don't know if that was because they were almost like getting, what would you call that? Like emo metal or some shit? Like almost?
Maybe screamo was a word.
Yeah,
but also
there's
Is
like,
that what that is?
I would call that screamo for
Yeah.
sure.
Emphasis on the emo?
yeah.
Shout out to Colin.
Okay.
Screamo.
So I can speak to that band, but not at this time in their career. Like I don't come into listening to that band until another 8 years down the road, 9 years down the road with Sempiternal, and I'm never gonna a hill that I'm gonna die on is that is a great fucking album. Well, and I don't care what.
Which one's that?
Sempiternal. So this is coming out of their like screamo phase, and they're
Is
moving.
it the one with the Flower of Life?
It's got that symmetrical.
Circles? Yeah. Okay.
No, these were that was the band that just played at
Upheaval.
Okay,
Yeah,
and I always get those kind of bands mixed up.
and I could like
they were good.
I can
yeah,
take or
they did
leave
play
like
that,
a lot of
didn't
their
they?
work. I'm sorry.
I said I totally forgot that they played that.
Yeah, they were the headliner for one of the nights, and
Yeah.
I could take or leave a lot of their work. But man, there's just something about that album front to back that I fuck with all day long. I just love it, and they did a really good job of texturing and layering and producing that album, and the songwriting is good for me too there. So they just hit a vein, they struck a nerve with me on that album that they have not captivated me in any other way in any other of their releases before or after. So, but a great album nonetheless. They did that.
So you got Cradle of Filth, Amphetamine, and then the Acacia Strain. Now, is this the first 3750? Is this the first Acacia Strain? Because this website I'm looking at, the Album of the Year website, obviously doesn't have every single album, but these are just some of the like really popular ones. This is a pretty cool website.
I mean, I would say that 3750 was like the first one that really hit. I don't know if it was their first release. They may have had one more before that.
Okay, but that was kind of like their
But
major...
yeah, that was the first major one.
Okay, cool.
This next year's got some really cool shit on it too. I'm ahead of you a little bit, Jay, but
well, it's looking like we're still got some more in 2004 here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Knock 'em
more
out,
in 2004. We got Suffocation, Souls to Deny. So if you've been a Suffocation fan the whole time, I didn't get onto those guys till way late in the game. If you heard one of the other episodes, you know that. Deicide, Scars of the Crucifix. You got Necro, the Prefix for Death. I fucking love that album. That's rap. That's rap. That's a rapper, Necro. But he had like John Tardy from Obituary on there, dude from Hatebreed, like, and some of it was like some actual like kind of like metal like music going on, and he was doing his rap over it. I love the Prefix for Death. It's kind of corny. A lot of his shit's real corny, but I love that.
I think that dude completely missed me.
Necro?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'll sleep fine tonight.
Okay.
You'll be good. So All That Remains, This Darkened Heart, great album. I remember that one. Obviously, I was turned on by the next album that we'll soon to talk about, On Earth, The Oncoming Storm. I think you turned me on to that as well.
Another banger.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And 3 Inches of Blood, never cared for him.
Can't do it.
Isn't that dwarf metal?
I can't fucking
I don't know. They just got them real high vocals, and I
know B-Man loves that band.
So, sorry, B-Man. Hypocrisy, The Arrival came out, so we're still, and
just
then
prolific.
Then we got Damage Planned, so the Newfound Power, never fucked with that. Shadows Fall, The War Within,
Great album.
Good album.
Decapitated, the Negation, which was also another, and then Misery Signals of Malice in the Magnum Heart. Of all these, besides the Kill Switch, that's probably the CD that I've listened to the most in 2004.
I still listen to that CD today.
Me too.
So metal was out there. It was a thing. It was, just it seemed a little bit harder to stay in tune with it all the way. But obviously, if you were going out to concerts and doing all the things that you were supposed to be doing to find it, it was out there. We were listening to it. There just wasn't 100,000 copycats, watering down every single genre.
Yeah.
And it was you might have missed some of these things. And to this day, I'm looking back at this list of music, and I'm like, yep, I missed some of these things. Never even heard of some of these things.
Oh yeah, me neither. One that I do have to mention though. And I don't know if you're very familiar with these guys, but Into Eternity, Buried in Oblivion.
Oh my God, what a great fucking album.
Lightly familiar.
So
wow.
I almost have to eat my words on the Misery Signals thing because this album I listened to a shit ton too. Because
God.
And for me, that the high vocal was always one of those things that was hard to get into, but Nevermore kind of gradually pushed me in the door of the high vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember listening to Sanctuary back in the day with like Garvey and stuff, and I was like, "This is fucking dumb, dude! Like, what is this shit? Like
power metal?
Is it like more of the
world,
operatic style?
Yeah, it's like World Bane
almost.
Nevermore.
Yeah, but Nevermore, he didn't really hit that nerve very much.
Yeah,
it was
he didn't
rare.
Go super high.
He would do it a couple of times here and there throughout, but like Sanctuary, I think he kind of stayed on it, like way up there.
Okay.
So we're gonna just plow right through 2005, and then we'll stop for some discussion after that.
Well, there's some good albums here that I might talk about a little bit, but go ahead. And when you hit one, I'll let you know.
Well, this first one I already know you're going to talk about. Well, you got the two System of a Down back to back.
Yep.
The Mesmerize, Hypnotize. Remember how they did that thing they came out with? But System has just never been a band that's been on my radar. Gojira from Mars to Sirius. I was super late on Gojira. Nick, this is one of the bands that Nick got me into, but just because he was like, you might like this, but it's not like really heavy. It's like heavy in its own way. You know what I mean?
And it wasn't as like super technical as you might have liked. Knowing your taste. But I saw it. I took an immediate chance on it. I thought it might have been some stoner metal based on the artwork, but it was like somebody else's metal album of the year, and I'm like, metal? You say? I fucking. Challenge accepted. It's got the flying whales on it and the planets, and it's not black artwork, and it's not skulls and crossbones. And I just was like, I am so captivated by this. And again, didn't know shit about it.
I still don't really know much about Gojira.
I mean, it's okay. Again, like Jay said, you'll sleep fine tonight. You're like, you like them or not. Like, I love them, and this was my introduction to them.
I know you've been riding.
Oh yeah, steady
for years,
and they've fallen off a lot in terms of the heavy. Like, let's just
at times,
call it what it is.
They'll bring it back.
Yeah, it's just they don't write like consistently heavy music, like start to finish. They write like
because the newest one was a lot heavier than the one that was the predecessor to that, like Lava or whatever.
Magma. Fortitude is heavier, but it is also still rocking in ways. Yeah, Schmagma.
So
Magma.
To continue down this 2005 list. Some things, another Korn album, another Disturbed album, all shit I didn't.
Korn album?
Yeah, I See You on the Other Side. All shit I didn't, nothing that.
Mudvayne.
Yeah.
Lost and Found.
Trivium, Ascendancy. I've never really got into Trivium. I've gave them a few shots. I don't dislike them. I don't love them. They're just there. But this I know was a captivating album for them. Like this is one of those things that like, really helped put them on the map.
Yep.
Between the Buried in Me and Alaska, I can't say nothing but great things about this album.
Huge
because
album. It's a
good album.
This is the album that Between the Buried in Me turned the corner. They turned into something completely else on this album. I think during this time they did that covers album too, and I don't know if it was right before Alaska or maybe it was right after Alaska. They did the covers album.
I think Alaska was before.
Before it.
Yeah.
So they started refining their sound because that's when they got the dudes from Glass Casket in the band.
Yep, you're right.
Dusty
I forgot all about
and
that.
Blake from Glass Casket. So that's where Alaska's a completely different sound than what you're getting on Silent Circus.
You can feel that influence.
It's way more technical, which is kind of hard to say. But on the drum front and like the time signatures and the melodies, there was just a whole different layering going on.
It just reminded me of like a death metal Rush.
It was very evolved from Silent Circus. They harnessed their songwriting very well.
Yeah.
And you almost felt like they were going to just write singles going forward because it does feel like more like singles than it does like an album. Like as they would go on to become a more progressive like album writing band. So I didn't see Alaska coming, and I certainly didn't see the next album coming from them, but it was a great fucking album by them. Every song on that one, too. Another one, front to back. No need to jump around or randomize
Great
it.
sequencing, too,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Alaska.
Yeah, excellent album. Even if it's not like that's like
Yeah, it's not one long song.
Yeah,
kinda
right.
Like they've
You
been
just-
known to do afterwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you knew one song to the next, it was a good song you were going to
Yep.
roll into.
So you got Meshuggah Catch 33, which I'll just say this about Meshuggah. Like, we're not here to deep dive into these bands. We're more talking about the genre. But
Yeah.
for me, like, Meshuggah, they've written one song for 12 albums. I know people probably want to put me in an armbar and choke me up and
Nope.
make me tap. But, like, for
Nope.
me, Meshuggah's great. They spawned a whole genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You would not have Gent without Meshuggah. But for me, they've just always wrote the
Yeah.
same song multiple times in a row.
It's
Technical.
a pretty sick song.
Oh, it's
though.
a sweet song.
It's
Yeah.
a
And
sick
it's
song.
technical as fuck. It
Yeah.
takes the highest capacity of your brain to make it work.
Yeah.
Like,
Their drummer
Yeah,
makes it work so
well,
well.
I mean, everybody in the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe besides the singer, he just got to rant and rave over the top of it.
He's still
but,
got to know where to be.
Crazy
Yeah.
phrasing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
They-
the guitar player too with the right
Yep.
hand. I
Yep.
mean, you know, and then obviously these guys are no slouches. And I don't want to get into this whole Meshuggah topic, but for me, they put out an album
Yeah.
and it
Well,
is what it is.
I'm going to see them tonight. I love
Yeah.
them. They are kings. I don't listen to a lot of them personally, but they have enough for me over the years. They have enough for me to where I'm going to say, you know what? I bet this is going to be a really fucking good show.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want
And they're
to
bringing-
see him in the Sphere.
Yeah, they're bringing
Ah.
in they're
be
bringing in some
sweet.
fun bands too within Flames in Whitechapel. So I'm in
Oh,
for a
yeah.
good night tonight.
Yeah. And then we got Strapping Young Lad Alien, which I'm kind of remiss that along this list we did not mention City because that's the Strapping Young Lad
Yeah,
album.
was that when did that fall? 99 or 2000?
That must have been earlier.
It was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a great fucking album that
Awesome
was
album.
too.
Cannot say enough good about that. Alien was okay, but nothing.
Yeah, it was
nothing
okay.
is City.
If
yeah.
I was to listen to any Strapping Young Lad, like if I was leaving here, I would listen to that album.
City,
Yeah.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Great
would.
album.
You got a Nile album, Annihilation of the Wicked. You got a Bloodbath album, Nightmares Made Flesh. So if you were still into the death metal stuff at this time, that would really probably harken to your taste. Let's talk about Protest the Hero, Kazaya. So I didn't get into Protest for a while after this, so I had to go back to this album. But this album is good. It's a good album. But Protest didn't really start hitting the mark until the next album they came with after that, which I love me some Protest.
Yeah, they're
Fortress.
good.
Fortress was the
Fortress,
name.
yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Fortress,
I
yeah.
was.
No,
my,
you're good.
My
I
wheels
seen
were
you.
turning.
Yep, it just came to me. I was trying to think of it too, but Fortress, they had like a video for it, and then that brought me back to just
Blood
really loving. You got Mudvayne Lost and Found. Was this one of the ones you wanted to speak on?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Alright,
It had
okay. I
it
didn't-
does
I
have
just-
some good Mudvayne on it, but you talk about a band that kind of had already lost me, and it was them at that time. I was like already over it because it was way watered down rock, new rock, not new metal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they yeah.
For me, it was LD50, and anything else after that,
was
I'm good
that
on.
was
so.
it.
Yeah, this one was a failure for me.
So, Job for a Cowboy Doom, 2005,
wasn't hip to it.
It was one of
Yeah.
the first like viral bands.
and MySpace bands,
Yeah,
and welcome deathcore to the fold.
basically.
Yeah.
Right.
fair, totally.
So we're doing death metal with the hardcore thing, which all of this whole conversation makes sense now when this is coming through at 2005, right?
That's how
All the
long-
things
yeah.
that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Now we're spawning a new genre, right?
Yep.
Where we're
Yep.
going as heavy as we can fucking go.
Yep.
We're not doing the hardcore thing. We're not doing just the straight death metal thing. Now we're introducing deathcore into the fold. Couple other albums here. As LA, Dying Shadows Our Security. Kind of didn't give a fuck about those guys during this time myself. Parkway Drive, don't care. Nevermore, the
Still
Godless.
don't care.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
wait, now I will speak to this one. I loved this Godless Endeavor front to back. I'm going to revisit it here soon again.
Parkway Drive.
No, I'm
Was
sorry.
What?
I did just hear you say Nevermore, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
Nevermore, the Godless Endeavor.
Yeah,
Yes.
I absolutely love
Okay,
that
okay.
album. And even at the time where there wasn't a lot of the social media that we come to know now, maybe a bit of MySpace, I was
Oh,
doing a
yeah.
lot of message boards like for maybe record labels and things of this sort, or just metal message boards, right? So it was kind of like this day in and day out interaction with people, right?
Right.
And I was gassing this one up a lot at the time. I listened to the shit out of this Godless Endeavor. Great, another great Nevermore album if you like the band.
So I did like it, but Dreaming Neon Black was so fucking awesome that, well, because there was one that came after Dreaming Neon Black too. That was the purple one.
Dead Heart in a Dead World.
Heart in a Dead World, which was good, but he started introducing the 7 strings and stuff. So that one kind of wasn't as good as Dreaming or Neon Black. So then when this one came out, I didn't pay attention as much as I probably should have. Not saying it's a bad album. It's a great album. I think I even have a copy of it. So
yeah, it's worth a
and
listen.
then so now we're talking, we got Arch Enemy, Municipal Waste albums all came out, but then Black Dahlia Murder, Miasma.
Ooh, that's a banger of an album.
So to me, this is where Black Dahlia Murder really started to come into the fold.
Okay.
2005.
Yep.
They're hitting every tour they can. They're playing every city in the world.
I think that was about the time that Bart joined the band too, right?
Yeah, it was that or the
Miasma?
Everblack, right around there. Yeah, he was on Miasma because
Yeah.
he was on
the documentary.
Statutory Ape and all that.
Yep.
Yeah. So
This is more in Jay's wheelhouse. I was a big fan of the first album, and I just kind of went along with Jay on this one and his word, and I just kind of accepted that the Black Dahlia Murder was going to be a thing going forward that consistently sounded like Unhallowed.
Fair.
Even if they got better on this album, and that's people's opinions, I still was like really attached to. And I have a slow time moving on from some things. If I like your previous work, I'm going to be real hesitant to jump into your new work.
I'm the same way.
I will wait a full fucking year and listen to half of the album just here and there before I really form a good opinion. And that's just kind of like teasing it into my listening time and making sure that I do in fact enjoy it, or that it does resonate with me when I'm not listening to it. Does it does it have like memorability factors, so yeah, I probably I let a lot of things go at a time, and Miasma was probably one that I didn't jump into, but I know Jay was repping it hard.
Yeah.
I remember being there.
yeah, I mean, those guys were just everywhere, and to me they filled that hole that At the Gates I needed to have filled with that Swedish metal.
True.
I mean, Soilwork was kind of doing it too. But Soilwork at this time also was starting to do more of the singy stuff and all that.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
they still
Big
just
time.
didn't have that bite that I was looking for.
Yeah.
In just that intensity.
It's funny, like you and I are always looking for that or otherwise. It's like we're looking for the heaviest goddamn thing ever, or just don't fuck with my time. Just don't waste my time.
What is that first Soilwork album that popped? The
Chain Heart Machine.
Chain Heart Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great album.
Yeah, I actually had that on my notes and I kind of skipped it. That came out in 2000, but it wasn't really on this list of albums.
Yeah, you were pushing that on me pretty hard too.
I
around
love
that time.
that album.
Yep, I remember.
And they still did a lot of good work after that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
are you way ahead of me or something, Nick? Was there something else you wanted to speak
that was
on?
just probably the
Okay.
Nevermore was the one that I
Okay.
because I just love Nevermore through and through because they're always doing their own thing. They have next to no contemporaries along the way, and it's a little bit sad to think like here they are doing virtually an outdated style of music,
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
but so goddamn good, and nobody was paying attention. And I'm just gonna constantly I'm gonna hang on that name just a little bit extra every time because as I've gone back and listened to it, it's like, oh my god, it's such great metal. And Warrell Dane's vocals are really good. They're not that Bruce Dickinson like Iron Maiden type thing that you associate with power metal. He can carry that lower register or that mid register in such a captivating way.
Yeah,
and the
was
lyrics and storytelling, it's just and the imagery, it's all great. I love that band. So that's the only band I really want to speak to. Carry forward, Jay.
So some more albums of 2005. There's a bunch, and it's kind of funny as we're progressing. We're going into the MySpace age. We're going into this. If you notice, these lists are getting longer and longer. So there's more bands. We're starting to. This is the internet age. Things are coming out.
Definitely when things were popping off.
Yeah, a lot. It's easier to get music. We're doing some lime wiring. We're doing
Napster,
CD burning. Yeah, Napster.
Yeah.
So some other albums just in 2005. Cryptopsy once was not. Soulfly came out with an album. Don't really care. Darkest Hour on Doing Ruin. I believe that's was that one of their earlier work? No, because Hidden Hand of a Sadist Nation was their first one, and they were trying to be At the Gates like a motherfucker.
They really were.
Yeah.
Man, such a good band too. Darkest Hour.
I remember this On Doing Ruin, comparing it to the earlier works, that Hidden Hand of a Sadist Nation. That was like, just we want to be At the Gates. We're recording at Studio Fredman. We're doing everything that At the Gates was doing. And then when this came out, I remember being all these sweeps and all this crazy technicality all over it. And I was just like, wait, is this the same band? So they've kind of stuck to their metalcore roots. Soilwork Stabbing the Drama. This was a pretty good album.
Good album. Kind of a return to form for them.
Yeah.
This is after Figure Number 5.
Yeah, after Figure Number Snooze.
Yeah.
And then Oh, it's called 5. Sorry.
I'll listen to that tonight when I'm trying to sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
Man. You guys are
When I-
brutal, but
when
I mean, you're not. You guys are brutal, but you're not wrong. If that could have been an EP, like in hindsight, that could have been like 3 or 4 songs, and like, hey guys, we just wrote,
Yeah.
we just wrote like 4 songs that sound alike, and then we're moving on.
Yeah, here's some
Yeah.
rock and roll for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
mean-
want to try something.
It's okay.
So we got some Hypocrisy Virus, Dark Funeral, Aterita Totus Sanctus, which I do like me some Dark Funeral. We got an Immolation album, Harnessing Ruin, which take it or leave it, whatever you want to do with it. Cave In. Now, this is what you can
Ooh,
speak
yeah.
on, right? So Perfect Pitch Black, is this one of their...
Perfect Pitch Black. Yeah. What is it? Until Your Heart Stops is the album.
Oh, okay. So was that before this, or is this...
I'm trying to think. I think it was before Perfect Pitch Black. What do you got there, Nick?
I'm gonna pull up some Cave-In albums if
see what it is.
I can type.
I got a couple more I definitely want to speak on here, though.
Yeah.
2005, big year for metal.
So Until Your Heart Stops is 98.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this is just must be a...
So they're getting long in the tooth
Yeah,
at this
by
point.
Yeah,
this
that
time,
was
unless-
this might have been around the time that I dragged Rolland to see Cave In, and they completely switched their sound from a metalcore band to an indie band.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
I remember
Rolland,
that.
the show ended, and Rolland goes, "When's Cave In start?" I was like, they just played.
Aw.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great.
Despised Icon, The Healing Process. What a
Mm.
fucking awesome record, man. Introducing me to Despised Icon. Thank you for that. 1349, Hellfire. Wasn't really into any of the black metal until later on in my music career. Belphegor. Don't know if you guys know those guys. Black and death metal. I didn't hear those guys till later. But Cephalic Carnage Anomalies. I remember when this album came out. I believe we were still hanging out. And
Yep.
we were cranking this bitch quite a bit, man. You turned me on to Cephalic Carnage. I remember you even bought me a Cephalic Carnage shirt when you went to...
Where was I?
I don't know where you were at, but I remember you bought me one. You brought me some stuff back from some concert you went to. Might have been
Yeah.
that Milwaukee Metal Fest or something.
I don't think it was that. I think it was later.
Yeah, because you turned me on to
I
them by
remember
burning-
buying.
Yeah,
that
you
shirt.
burned me the CD for Lucid Intervals,
Yep.
and I just fell in love with them after that. And then, let's see, is there anything else of note for 2005? Not really. We're just got a whole lot of bands here that...
Randomness.
Yeah, just a lot of randomness. Let's see if this list... Oh, it's still going.
I'm ready for the next year.
Yeah, I'm ready to.
I'm ready to graduate to 06.
Yeah,
Looks
let's
like
go to 06. here.
there's better music.
We do have a Hate Eternal CD. Go back to listen to some other episodes if you want to know my stance on that. Origin Echoes of Decimation. What
Okay.
a fucking awesome
band.
album.
So there's a death metal band.
Yeah, but I also at the same time wasn't into Origin till way later too. So
Fair.
Just the way it goes with music, you hear the name, you see the album artwork. One of your buddies, it might be their favorite fucking band, but you just never listen to it
Sure.
until
Wasn't
know.
Garvey really big into Origin?
Eliminator was big into Origin. I know
Okay.
Garvey liked them, and I remember playing with them, but we opened for him when I was jamming with a Rapture or whatever.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Devourment, Butcher of the Week,
Don't know.
take or leave that, however you want to do that. Wolves in the Throne Room. Let's see.
Cool name.
Are you in 06?
Yeah, I'm looking into the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick's
just-
got a crystal ball here.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Tool 10,000 Days. We're in 2006 now.
Man, this album took forever and a day to
Yeah,
fucking
it took
shit and get off the
10,000 days
pot.
for him to fucking put it out.
Christ.
It'd take me forever to listen to that.
I still love it thoroughly. I
I
can
got
test it's
respect.
one of my favorite ones. But
What's that?
I said I got respect for Tool.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it this is where it ends for me. I love that album, and it's a good one. I understand Anima be more popular, obviously, and even Lateralis, bigger songs, more popular. But I loved going for the ride that was 10,000 Days. It actually worked for me.
I feel like so as a genre in 2006, now we've went a long way in 6 years. We've went
Yeah.
a real long way with
Really
the
did.
evolution of music in 6 years. We've talked about all of it from new metal to the hardcore. Now we're just kind of talking about years and albums.
Yeah,
Right.
But now we can see where everything is there.
yeah, and also you
Almost
can see
all of it is there now.
that
Mhm.
new metal has kind of disappeared
Yeah,
from
new
the
metal
list.
is no longer a thing.
At this time,
10
yeah,
years
it's
later.
pretty much gone.
Yeah.
Like it was 96 through, maybe maybe 05 was the death knell. Like Slipknot 3 maybe was, whenever that dropped. Like we were all over it by then.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got Deftones putting out an album, Saturday Night Wrist.
When was this? 05 or 06?
06.
Okay.
So they're still putting shit out, but
it
just
wasn't new metal.
If you weren't a fan,
it wasn't.
Yeah.
No.
Deftones has always kind of been a weird one though, because I've always felt like they've been classified as new metal.
Right.
But besides maybe like Engine Number 9 with like the rappy stuff on there, like what else really was new metal about them? Like a lot of their shit was always kind of
the baggy pants.
Yeah.
The first album,
Yeah.
album, maybe the first two albums had more a new metal feel to them. But once you get to White Pony forward, like there's nothing
more
metal
rock.
about them.
Not really at all.
Yeah.
And that's okay too, because I still like everything they've done afterwards, by and large.
So it's just kind of hard to say.
But it's more rock. It's more rock with them.
Definitely gets majorly like genty later, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot heavier. 7 strings, 8-string guitars.
Yeah, they come around
15 string, whatever.
So Saturday
Drop
Night Wrist
A.
is probably one of their more chill and rock efforts.
Yeah.
It's really a watered down White Pony, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I can't remember too much memorable from that album and that time.
I can't think of a song.
Yeah, I can't honestly. Yeah, same. But Deftones still fuck with them, still love them. Just a time in music when new metal was on its way out, and they were probably deciding what to do going forward. Like how
they were probably wondering.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, not
what
that
to
they cared
do at that point.
Not that
Honestly,
they cared, but they were probably just kind of finding some new identity going forward at that stage. Really long like career for them, 10 years at least.
Right.
At least, maybe probably more closer to 15 at that point, because
at that point it had to be 15.
Yeah, because
they had to have
prior
started
to 94. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you got to remember too. Think of how long some of these bands were a band before they even got noticed.
Exactly.
So you go 5-6 years added to the front of that too. If not more.
But I love some Deftones, even if that wasn't a metal album by any stretch.
You got Slayer, Christ Illusion. Slayer still doing their thing. Love it. Killswitch Engage as Daylight Dies. So real quick on this, a lot of people give this album so much flack, but I fucking love this Killswitch
good album.
I fucking love it. Every song on it. It's got my favorite song they've ever done on it. And
Which
I believe
song?
this is the end of. Let me see if it gives me song titles here, buddy. It is Desperate Times. It's like this slower. It's a slower song. It's just like real drony and moody. And I just really when I listen to Killswitch, this is usually the one I go back and listen to.
Cool.
So got Lamb of God, Sacrament. I was kind of over those guys at this time.
Yeah,
same.
that was like a half a good album.
Yeah,
in
you
my
got
opinion.
In Flames Come Clarity, still doing that thing. All that remains, The Fall of Ideal. So this album is the album that put me on to In Flames, or I mean, All That Remains. Excuse me.
Okay.
Because they had 6? That was like on Guitar Hero.
Yeah,
Remember
I
that?
think so.
They had like a video, and then this is really kind of what put me on the map for All That Remains. And then I started gobbling up what I could. They only had an album before that, but I remember that just being a super awesome album.
All That Remains, that's Phil, right?
Yeah,
Phil Labonte.
Labonte.
Yeah.
Dissection, they put out an album. Make sure you go back if you want to learn more about Dissection in our black metal series that we released. 2006. Okay, El Shall Perish, The Price of Existence. The Faceless,
El Kadima.
El Kadema.
I know you love this album. Jay.
Yeah.
It's pretty raw for me.
For me, that's my favorite Faceless. It's kind of when they began and ended.
One and done for Jay and Jay's life. That's all right though. That's okay.
It sucks.
I just spoke to a band like for me in that same category, and it is what it is. I would continue to love the Faceless, but not even enjoy them until their next album and further down the road after that.
So have you guys ever had a band that you like their material so much that you listened to everything else after and just was trying to like it as much as you
Absolutely.
could?
Yeah.
Just because you liked the one thing they had so much?
Candiria.
Was that enough for you?
Is that
really?
Basically Candiria.
I thought you liked them a lot more than that.
I mean, I love everything. Like, I would relate it to, like, the early Candiria as opposed to, like, post-accident.
Oh, okay.
Like, I really tried to like everything post-accident.
Just because you like the band so much.
I love that band.
Yeah.
But
Heard
it's not good.
Yeah.
heard that. Yeah, I've got some bands like that for
It's
sure.
different.
I try to. And
That album, though, the one where their van is crashed on the front of it,
It's got some
that fucking
couple
album
tracks.
is great for me. I
don't know,
love
man.
that one,
I would
dude.
call it couple tracks.
Yeah. But yeah, the Face
It's
was
good.
that band.
So
that,
I understand.
Yeah, so the Face was that band that was like, I love this album so much, I can't wait till they put out the next album and the next one. And then
What's
they
that
did.
dude's name?
Michael Keenan.
Michael
That's right.
Keane.
Yeah,
Keen.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's not Batman.
So I've got one for
Or
you.
Mr. Mom.
From 06, I've got one for you, and
Sure.
I was really hip to this
Riff it
album.
off.
And Luke, I know you know this one too. I don't know if you can see it down
Hit
here,
me
but
with
it's ISIS in the Absence of Truth.
That one I didn't really listen to that
That's
much.
that's all you, bro. That slow.
Yeah, that
Droney
is
fucking-
me. Thank you
But
for pointing that out.
I do love ISIS.
Okay.
Like Celestial and
Yeah.
Panopticon.
Yeah, ISIS.
Okay,
the
so
band.
I guess it's
as-
you and Luke. It's that
Yeah.
side of the table today,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, ISIS, the band, as it were, just for safety's sake. For
Not
fuck's-
the organization.
Yeah, for fuck's sake, the ones that make metal music that drones on.
I know.
Big
being
fan
a
of
band,
ISIS.
like, and that the organization comes out like, how shitty. Man.
Oh
you're
man,
like,
tragic.
fuck.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fucking tragic. Like, cause it really, honestly, up to that point in time, great fucking band name, right?
Awesome band name.
Yeah, God of, and I forget. Now, let me just dial it up because I just want to pay respect. But that album, though it be droney, I loved it, Luke. And it's like a shoegaze kind of progressive doom metal.
Very.
Really dirty distortion all the way through, but they had the tendency to give an album breath and break it down melodically and musically, sonically in ways that allows your mind to just kind of calm down from the carnage and chaos. And they were another band. They were like a storm when you listen to it.
Huge band live, sound-wise.
Yeah, sound wise, yeah, they got them full stacks, probably
One of
three
the-
of them per guitar
Yep,
player, the
yep.
orange stacks.
One of the loudest
Yeah.
bands I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I guess depending on your gods of choice, Great Mother Isis, the goddess of healing and magic, Egyptian religious
I
beliefs.
thought it was
That's a
healing.
good reason to kill a lot of people. But
Makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
makes
know where
sense.
I don't know where the organization draws their name from, but anyway.
So all
the
shall
band.
perish, the price of existence.
Mhm.
Fucking all shall perish. What a great fucking band. So we're seeing some more emerging
Okay.
of the deathcore.
Yep.
The Faceless, so some technical death metal.
Mhm.
And that shit was new. That's why I love the Faceless, because it was like, oh, something new, something that sounds
Fast.
a little different. It's
Yeah.
fast. It's death metal.
Real
it's technical.
fast.
It's not these guys that have been doing it for so long that
Right.
have all these that might have put an album out, in this same year. Like,
Yeah. New sounds. New
So-
sounds, new take on metal.
just for the lack of time's sake, I'm just going to kind of run through some quick stuff from the rest of this year. If
Sounds
there's
good.
anything you guys want to mention, so we got Strapping Young Lad, the New Black. I like that. Deicide, the Stench of Redemption. I've always been kind of hit or miss on them. Devourment, another just straight death metal band. Hate Breed Supremacy. So Atreyu, a Death Grip on Yesterday. So
I see
The
Mastodon dropped Blood Mountain.
okay,
I think that's a worthy album to speak to. I mean, that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Mastodon really kind of growing to the Mastodon that we know at this
Yeah.
point.
now
I
yes.
think that is the turning point album for Mastodon in their career. They already had elements of this coming into the fold, but this is the one that really was a pivotal album for them in their career, and the sound that we get now out of Mastodon really started to emerge with Blood Mountain. I don't know, 4 or 5 albums prior to that, maybe, Luke. I mean, if you're familiar,
I think 4.
yeah, so they're definitely well into the game at this point, but a great example of a band growing and just doing something their own and establishing their identity along the way, and very true to form with Blood Mountain. I think if you were to pick up a Mastodon album and start, I'd say go with that one to begin with, even though I'd say Crack the Sky is my favorite.
I would say Leviathan's probably my favorite. But
Fair.
yeah,
Great album also.
all
Fair.
of them. All of them
Yep.
are good.
Yeah,
Great
if-
albums. But yes, I would say that that's the best representation of the band that they turned into.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
a good year for them for sure then.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, they were huge. They started to get really big. They were already a name that I knew, but with that album, they were just kind of like in my face. And my friends from outside of metal were asking me, have you heard the new Mastodon? I'm like, I'm hip. I'm cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure. So
So
good
we
album.
got, just plowing through some. We got after the Burial, Forging a Future Self. So we're
Good stuff.
We're getting some gent.
Gent.
In here. We got Skinless, Internal Suffering, dropping albums. So Acacia Strain, The Dead Walk.
That was the one.
That was at the one.
That's the one that kind of popped them off.
Yeah, and I think that's helped. And what I'm noticing about these lists too, so as I'm naming some of these, so now there's this emergence of death metal coming back into the fold too. Like, not that these bands haven't done anything, but all of a sudden we got a new Skinless, we got a new Internal Suffering, we got a new Suffocation, which was a self-titled that came out this year. We got an Archgo album that came out this year. So with this emergence of this music evolving, getting heavier and heavier, all leading back to that Slipknot thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
it died and it came back around. Like death
Mm-hmm.
metal kind of died, rock went to new metal, thrash metal went to new metal. Well, you could say that grunge kind of fucked that up too, but that's not what we're talking about today. But now all these bands are coming out, all these newer bands with the newer sounds, the deathcore. I mean, A Case to Strain to me is deathcore.
Basically,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Because they're heavy as fuck. They're not hardcore to me.
No.
They have elements.
A lot of hardcore dudes would take that argument, but
Yeah, I'm sure they would.
that's just because they be arguing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because they hardcore dudes. Now they're going to argue me about that, too.
Yep.
Sicketh, Death of a Dead Day, man, what a cool fucking band that was, Sicketh. Between the Bear to Me and the Anatomy of, so that's the covers album. What a great album.
Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with that one.
We got
And it was just for me, like, I loved it because I love those bands that they covered too. Like, it's cool that they had and they went and did rock songs.
They
and
did
made,
a Faith No More cover, didn't they?
yes.
Yep, and they did a Soundgarden cover. They did a Queen cover, as I recall.
Nice.
Yeah, they did some really
Sepultura, Metallica.
Yeah, and they did a really good job with the vocals, and I think that was a good coming out party for him and his clean vocal style. Like, he was really able to say, hey, I'm going to start doing this now, and I wanted to showcase that through these cover songs.
Right.
So this is the style that you can expect from me when I start singing going forward. So a really great album, even though it's just covers, but it feels like an original because it feels like Between the Bear to Me when you listen to it.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
It's a really well done album.
I'm going to re-listen to that.
Fun.
We got a Misery Signals album, Gorgoroth, Delphagor. I'm kind of flying through these. That Misery Signals Mirrors, though, man, what a great fucking album that was, too. I'm just kind of flying through these for time's sake.
No, it's okay.
Makes sense.
We got a good year. We got a I'm looking ahead just to see what is going to be worth
I'm going to name a few less because you can kind of go back and so now we're in 2007. You got Between the Bear to Me Colors, which was a perfect example of what you just talked about.
Yes,
was their evolution from Alaska, which was already a big jump from Silent Circus, to the Covers album, and then them realizing all the things that they could pull off and what they could actually do.
You talk about a band with just such a high skill ceiling and actually able to be at it consistently for so long. Like, they're just at their skill ceiling, it would seem, because how much better can you be?
No, you can't.
And they're so tight, like, between the five of them, and now, correct me if I'm wrong, is the singer's name Tommy?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
so now you not only have Tommy's vocals growing, but you have all of these keyboard elements and production elements that he's adding to the fold too, and that started to really come through live, and it shows the growth of that band in many, many ways. The musicianship is just so outrageous between those members.
So, Godfathers of Death Metal, Deathcore, Job for a Cowboy.
Fair.
I've heard a lot of people say that the Suicide Silence, The Cleansing is, but that didn't come out till this year, 2007, and you already have two All Shall Perish records before that as well. So why would Suicide Silence be the Godfathers of Death Metal? Because you already had Doom from Job for a Cowboy out, and you had two All Shall Perish and a Despised Icon record out.
I think it might go back to that same sentiment that we feel about death, where we're not seeing it in real time. We waited for history to tell the tale, and that's where Chuck is the godfather of death metal. But there were other bands doing it at the same time. Why isn't it Morbid Angel? Why isn't it Possessed? Why isn't it Venom or what have you? And I think it just kind of goes to like how large that fan base maybe is, and how much impact they had. Whereas those other bands, true, they were around and they dropped albums prior to that, and they, by all opinions, maybe even better albums. But I think Suicide Silence just had a way of captivating their fans in that genre, and they just drew people in. Luke,
they really did, and it was like. Around the time that Job for a Cowboy started popping off was like I said, one of the first real viral bands. Mitch from Suicide Silence was the same thing. Like his presence and everything was kind of what popped that band off. And what people were saying, referring to Suicide Silence as one of the also bands that started deathcore, and it basically just reverts back to the MySpace days, man. It was pre-viral.
Yeah.
If you do great on MySpace music, then the tickets will sell themselves,
Right.
Engagement has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
And I think in the scheme of things, as we're breaking down year by year and album by album, 2 years isn't a whole lot of time for a genre to develop.
No.
True.
Because just because Doom came out and people were fans of it, just because Despised Icon and All Shall Perish had records out, doesn't mean that it hit out of the park like this Suicide Silence, the Cleansing album did, right?
It really,
Facts.
So,
Yeah, fair.
yeah. I was just trying to dive into that argument a little bit because I hear a lot of people say the Cleansing was like what really set it off.
Sure.
But just because it set it off don't mean it's the first thing, right?
Yeah, usually there's a good foundation going for it, and for something like that to be able to set it off. There's a batch of albums already like kind of underneath them, and they're like, okay, yes, we're gonna do that, but better. We're gonna be the best at it, and I love bands that do that. I love that attitude.
All right, for time's sake here, I don't want to fly through these next 3 years, but I do want to just mention a few things, and then we'll probably wrap this bitch up here pretty quick because we've been going on for quite a while here.
It's been fun.
Though I think we got the point across of what we wanted to say, because my whole point wasn't to break down every single album that came out every single year, but I just wanted to talk about the evolution and then kind of where we all fit in with it.
Right.
So we can already see that, okay, now deathcore is coming on the scene, 2007, right?
Yeah.
And you still got all these other bands that have, in Nick's term, long in the tooth.
They've been around a while.
He likes to use that one. So you got Machine Head coming out with something, Dream Theater coming out with something, and this is all 2007.
That album, though, now, that's not just a something. No, this speaks to your whole point here. The Blackening by Machine Head is a real evolution in their sound going back to heavy. Now, they had dropped some snoozers before leading up to this album. They had the Burning Red.
Yeah, because they went to that new metal territory.
And then what was
cut
before
the
that, like
hair.
Supercharger or something like that? Or I don't even know what. So, real quick, I'm not just going to gloss over the Blackening. Now, the Blackening is a real return to form here. This is like a Master of Puppets style album.
Yeah. What year was that?
2007. And you could tell by looking at the cover art, you're like, they mean business. It's just black on white, and it's called The Blackening. And the songs are really long, and like 7-8 minutes each. And there's a lot of twin guitar work between him and the lead guitarist from Violence. I forget names at this moment, but just a fucking great Machine Head album. It speaks to your point, Jay. Metal was back on the rise in a heavier way. Even Machine Head was coming out of that, poppier new metal phase, and they were going back to their roots too.
Then we got a Behemoth album, which is solidifying their place among heavy metal, and then a few other albums in there, but nothing really of note that's like genre changing, right? That's kind of where I want to go from here. Anything that really was impactful.
I'm looking at 2007 too, and really that album is about all I want to mention, to be perfectly honest.
So let's move real quick into 2008. We'll gloss right over 2008, 9, and 10. We'll just pull it, and then we'll wrap this up. But some good albums: Slipknot, All Hope Is Gone, Metallica, Death Magnetic, stuff I didn't really care about. Gojira, The Way of All Flesh. Now, this was the album that did it for me, but it wasn't in 2008. This wasn't until 2016 when you gave it to me that I was like, okay, this is a fucking amazing album. Also, note to this album, this album was also produced by
Randy Blythe?
No, the dude from Machine Head.
Rob Flynn?
Logan.
Logan
He produced
Mader?
this album. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So just a quick note on that, and it's still held to one of the highest regard of mixers.
Okay.
To actually mix albums, because this album has such an amazing mix on it. Like, because they use mixes for reference mixes.
Yeah.
Like listening to something and wanting your shit to sound like that. This is still one of those albums for tons of mixers. So just a little fact on that.
And probably, was that 08 or 09, Jay?
This is 08.
Okay, probably then the album of the year for 08, because I'm looking to, I mean, other than you got Slipknot and In Flames.
Protest the Hero Fortress. What a fucking banger that was.
Okay.
Probably didn't get onto those guys till 10 or 11 or 12 for me. Attack. That's Joey Sturgis's work. I think that's like some of their first shit. I wasn't really into that
Records
kind of
band.
Yeah, that's where they're coming off. So I didn't.
That stuff kind of missed me.
Yeah.
Did it miss you?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't think you were into that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm just kind of glossing over 08 here. We got the Faceless Planetary Duality. This is where I was disappointed greatly.
I absolutely loved it, but I still would not. I would grow to be a bigger fan of the Faceless going forward yet.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just not what the first album was.
Yeah, totally get that.
And then you got All That Remains, Overcome. So they're like, hey, let's write a bunch of corporate rock shit, metal stuff on this. I mean, sorry, but it is. Yeah. You got Thy Art Is Murder. That's one of their first things coming along. Cryptopsy putting some shit out. Pig Destroyer. So as you can see, all of this stuff's getting back to heavy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with all these different brands of heavy that these guys put out. 2008, you got a Meshuggah Bleed. That was a huge thing for them. I think that really put those guys on the map.
That's the song. The song I was trying to remember earlier.
Yeah.
You got Carnifex, the Diseased, and the Poison. I'm just so very like lukewarm wouldn't even be a good
yeah, you'd be doing a
recommendation.
disservice
Yeah,
to
I'd
our
be-
guests.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry, Luke. It's not. It's more like
More like Luke Cold.
yeah.
Okay, so here's one that's
Oh,
It's more.
yeah.
It's more like Chad Cold or something.
ahead, Luke.
You know.
Oh, yeah, they got Axe to Fall by Converge.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with this band. You guys tell me a little bit about it, just for people.
Converge. It's
Yeah.
fucking nuts.
It's
That's what I can say.
insanity.
Yeah. So I mean,
It's like a
the
less-
Norma Jean. Where am I at here? Like,
A less technical Dillinger escape plan.
okay.
Is that fair?
Fair.
So
Yeah.
a more hardcore, less technical
Okay.
Dillinger,
Not as clean.
not as clean.
Very,
they're
very
crazy,
dirty.
crazy on stage too. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you're talking backflips, kicking
Yep.
amps over,
Okay.
fucking destroying everything in its
Yeah.
path.
So this is an era for me of music, and that's a style of music for me that I think I don't even know them. I missed a lot of the stuff because I was leaning more into like songwriting and melody and just things making sense. And where noise has its place, it wouldn't find its way back to me in terms noise in my music until like I'd find things that were more dissonant
Right.
and still melodic and musical. I just didn't like wanky sounds, and you get bands that are too gimmicky with it. And I'm not saying that these guys are, but I feel like
they're
a lot.
not.
I feel like a lot of that genre was just kind of like power chords and noises, and I was a little bit lost on it. So, and it's not to like diminish it. I just didn't understand it at the time, and I think if I went back and listened to it, I'd be like, oh fuck,
Fair.
these riffs slap so.
Oh
fucking
yeah,
hard,
they
and I-
got some
and I
heavy
miss
Yeah,
shit
it,
too.
their
dude.
their musicianship alone
Okay.
will hold you.
Yeah,
And
I
then they
think that's-
have groove too, where
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like
A
they'll
lot-
throw a
a
bunch
lot
of
of groove.
chaos at
Right.
you, and then they'll bust into this heaviest groove, and you just feel like you got your
Yeah.
face kicked in, and you're
So-
like, oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, so here's the
Yeah.
first note of the day for me. I'm gonna write down Converge.
Yeah, Converge. And
Converge.
they are held hardcore death metal guys. You name it.
It doesn't matter.
Converge is a name that will come up.
Extreme
Okay.
music.
Yeah, extreme
they're
music.
up there.
Converge is a
Fair.
name that is in there.
I'm gonna expand my horizons tonight.
So-
yeah,
So-
they've been a band now for 30 years. So.
Yeah. So you
Yeah,
got
I've heard of
Valamaya.
them.
Yeah.
You got
Love
Valamaya.
that band.
Good
Misery
band.
Signals, Controller. That was a fucking awesome album. You got some Abigail Williams in the Shadow of the Thousand Suns. I like that album. I believe this is the one that was like kind of helped black metal come back around in a clean way. You
Are
got
we
some
in-
Belphegor.
Are we in 09, Jay?
We're in 8 right now, I
Okay.
believe.
Oh,
Still,
whoops.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're still in 08. I'm just trying to get through this list. We have
good.
the All Shall Perish, Awaken the Dreamers. So we're introducing a little bit of singing into this deathcore thing that we're doing
I
here.
absolutely love that album.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's, I mean, even if they were starting to change their sound at that point, this is where I jump in to that band's catalog, and I think that is probably their favorite work by me.
Speaking of deathcore, Animosity. Where are they? landing
Yeah, I
at?
don't see any animosity on here.
They're
I
just
don't know.
Maybe not popping up in the algorithm, but they
Yeah.
exist. Let's pull it up
Yeah,
specifically.
tell us what it is there, Nick. What
Animosity.
year are we looking at for animosity? I'm just going through this list
hold
real
on.
quick.
Yeah, I
Another
gotta pull
Into
up the
Eternity
band.
album.
Still a great band, but
Yeah.
their best work is that one single album we already mentioned.
Yeah.
I'll just be fair about it. Okay, and that's my
Many
fair.
more albums in 2008. It just keeps going on
Oh,
and
yeah.
on and on.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
On this website, it shows like a graph of how many albums come out per year, and it exponentially goes from like a thin line all the way to like hundreds of thousands.
Oh,
of
wow.
albums.
From-
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
from
Here we
like
go.
Okay.
2000.
So
Yeah.
we have already like they
Glossed
have already
over that.
yeah they have already come and gone at this point. They had Shut It Down in 03,
Yep.
Empires in 05, and
Yeah.
Animal in 07.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
Now it says there was a 2011 Hellraiser. No, I'm sorry, that's 2001, a Hellraiser demo, and then 2008 there was Altered Beast.
I didn't realize their whole longevity was so short.
Yeah.
I remember seeing them with Black Dahlia Murder too,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
another
am
good
I-
release from 2008, and Hell Followed With. Domain, those guys really put
Okay.
deathcore on the map. Plus, they're
Yep.
the dudes from Michigan, the fucking
Mm-hmm.
bros, almost, at least at one time.
I swear I saw Kyle at the Dies show.
Really?
I swear it was him.
All right, a lot of albums in 2008. Nothing else really to like speak upon.
It's-
Trying to get into 9 and 10, and just we'll call it at that.
Yeah, 2 more years. I think we got time for
Yeah.
that. I mean, we can already see, though, to our own point, though, that metal kind of was leaning one way, in the beginning of the decade, and it started to really come back around in acceptable heavy ways by the end of the decade, to where listening to extreme metal music was it seemed a little bit more palatable. I think the internet helped a lot with that.
Slipknot honestly helped a lot with that.
And Slipknot too.
I mean, we'll just keep going back to the point, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
so 2009 here, we have some Megadeth Endgame, we have some Slayer World Painted Blood, Between the Buried and Me and Great Misdirect. What a fucking awesome album that was.
Really progressive, great album.
I was really in love with BT Bam around this time because I ran right to the record store to buy that. You have the Behemoth Evangelon, which was also a great record.
Yep.
You got a new Suicide Silence, No Time to Bleed, and then you got the Killswitch Engage self-titled, which I've never heard one note of one song off of, and I'm a huge Killswitch fan. I just heard it was crappy, so I never listened to it.
Don't think I have either, honestly.
Not one note, bro.
I haven't even played it.
Not one note.
One time.
Nope.
Yeah.
And everything else after
that's with Jesse, right?
No, that's Howard's last effort.
The self-titled?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the one with like the purple Jaguar on the front.
Never once.
Yeah, not once. I've listened to one note of one
it's okay.
song.
I
think they snuck one in live when I seen them, so they made me listen to it, but I didn't know the song.
It's funny that I
so
said
I
only only fuck with Howard Killswitch, and there's a whole album that I haven't even listened to.
I think once again you'll sleep fine. At least that's what I heard. But I never heard it, so I can't tell you. It might be a fucking slapper, too. I don't know. Might be talking on my fucking ass.
An album that I'm looking at, Jay, that I won't wait to speak to, Crack the Sky by Mastodon drops in 2009.
Okay.
So this is a landmark album for that band.
For sure.
Blood Mountain is obviously great, and we could see this coming, but we didn't know it was going to be this good. I really don't think anybody expected, like, Crack the Sky to come out and it just open our third eye the way it did for so many other albums of its kind, like a Anima, or I don't know, man. It's just such an epic progressive album, and I think it appeals to so many people for so many reasons, musically, vocally. There's just like so many elements going on there visually, and I think lyrically even too. They put forward a really good effort. I think it was it's about Brand's sister. I
didn't know that.
Whose name was Sky, and she had passed, and he was really using this album as a cathartic vehicle for him to kind of like heal through that. So when we talk about every now and again, we talk about albums like that and the healing of music. I think this is a great album for people that need to go on that kind of a journey. Crack the Sky in 2009, really allowing for bands to grow and shine in their own writing, as Mastodon had done over the years. It become really progressive and melodic.
So
that's still heavy.
That's some lore for sure.
So through all of these, they've had that happen like every album though. There's like somebody that passed or somebody close
Mastodon?
to them. Yeah, like
really?
I've watched like the making of the last 3 records, and every single one is shrouded in some kind of issue, or like this last one they just put out. Their tour manager guy, or the guy that they've toured with for so many years, he freaking passed away, and so a lot of that was about that too.
I know
but
there was a really close family member who died around. I think it's the Hunter.
It's fucking sad.
Mastodon
a lot of it is. So 2009, I mean, dude, it's just chock full of music. I mean, you name a band, they came out with an album that year. Probably the same in 2010. So for the sake of time, we could probably fucking sit here for another 3 hours and talk about all these albums, but I just wanted to like really drive the point home that
metal went through some hardship.
Yeah, I mean,
it really did.
We kind of were there along the whole way listening to it.
I keep saying it.
And then, well, also being there and then, like, having it come back around. A lot of that was, for me, you kind of, it's weird because I got you into metal, and then you kind of got me back. Listen, like, yeah, Slipknot would have bridged the gap either way for many people. But you showed me a lot of stuff that I didn't know of that become some of my favorite stuff.
It's just how I've always been, too. I'm like, hey, man, check this out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we still do that all the time. You text 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Hey, you heard this shit?
Yeah.
You're like, you listen to this?
Nice.
So
I'm always doing that to Jay too. I'm gonna start doing that to you as well, Luke. I'm gonna start hitting you over the head with some things that I think you might.
I'm gonna start doing it to you too.
Do it. I can do it.
Just like the good old days.
I eventually do. So 2010. Is there anything you wanted to speak to on that year? Because
not really, because
we made our point.
Yeah, I think we made our point. Because like I said, 2009. I'm still going through these albums, and like I said, if you name a band that came out with an album that year, even a band like Asphyx that's been around for 25 years, all of a sudden they're coming back out with shit. And like I said, that just goes to show of the evolution of like a lot of these bands that even got softer, like a Machine Head, or they're like, well, fuck, metal's kind of the thing now. Deathcore is the thing now. Now we need to be heavy again. So That's
even
that kind of
Megadeth
Go ahead,
and
buddy.
Metallica became heavier again. Even if, as I'm watching the In Flames albums kind of tick by over the years, now I can see
kind of come back.
a sense of purpose kind of came and went, and that was kind of them returning a little bit more to some of that heavy, whereas everything was like really formulaic and sing-songy and upbeat and happy, where I had nothing to do with In Flames for some years,
Yeah,
but
me
a sense
neither.
of purpose was okay. I'm just seeing like, the Machine Head come back around, so there's some things that you were allowed to be heavier again if you decided to be, if you wanted to be, you could be heavier again.
And there
It
are
was more
bands that
acceptable.
didn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just all the evolution of the band. But like a Soilwork did that also.
Mhm.
So
I think it's okay for bands to do that, and they're going to catch some flack from their fan base who wants like consistently heavier music or just catchier music. But it's okay, and as long as the band knows they're going to catch some flack, they might bring in some new fans. But the old fans still got to come out to the shows, and we still are going to hold you to playing heavy music when we come out.
The bread and the butter.
Yeah,
and you got to grow as an artist. So it's like what
that's
you're
fair.
feeling.
Yeah, it's totally
like,
fair.
I mean, if you're feeling it and you like it, then just do it. That's
Yeah.
what the amazing thing about being an artist. With that being said, is there anything else you guys want to say on metal from 2000 to 2010?
It was rough. It was rough, but it was fun.
was.
It's fun looking back on it.
Yeah.
There was a lot of different things, a lot of different struggles, like genres kind of trying to fight and vie for our attention in that heavy community. And to see where it's come, where they're now so many years removed even from that decade, like the merging of all of these genres.
Oh, yeah.
So
Even more.
So it's a good, it's a
further.
good time to like look back at that 10-year gap where there was like virtually no death metal or thrash metal or anything, and you just had that new metal thing,
Yeah.
and that lasted for a good 4 or 5 years, and or give or take, to where again we said the main name Slipknot, but that allowed for heavier music to kind of come back into the fold, and it allowed for older bands to return to the fold in ways and be heavy again.
Yep.
Whereas they were kind of trying to compete with that grunge rock thing, which is fine and fair. We definitely don't spend any time talking about it here. If anything, I'll nod to my boys in Alice in Chains because they had some heavy vibes going on there. And Soundgarden, I know Luke not a big fan of
And,
as we
well-
discussed, but there's some heaviness there. But like grunge rock kind of really took a lot of the popularity for
yeah.
rock and heaviness for people. It was enough, but there was a world of metal going on, even below our own world, that we were still
Yeah.
trying to figure out. There was always
sure.
there's always been metal, and it's good to look back on it and see like where it was and where we are now and how we got to where we are now.
I think the thing is too, for all of us, it's like Slipknot's not our favorite band. None of our favorite
Definitely
band.
not.
Probably not
Yeah.
even top fucking for
No,
me. Probably
I
not
don't
even
even-
top 25. Like
No.
I
But
don't fuck with Slipknot, but
the
that first
one
album.
the one album is totally amazing. But we are telling the world that these guys were such an important
Yeah.
part.
They
For
were.
the reason why we're actually still sitting here,
Yeah.
because we might have just started listening to
I mean,
whatever
just,
bullshit after that.
whatever was allowed to
just
be
the
listened
fact
to.
that, like, I mean, Slipknot was putting out singles, and they were singles,
Mhm.
but they were pretty hard singles.
For the radio.
So the reason, the way they kept stepping it up just
Yeah.
made like the music more and more acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
as the years went by.
Yeah, Wait and Bleed, not the heaviest song by
No.
them, but as you go forward, their singles do get a little bit heavier in ways.
They do.
And even if the albums aren't as intense, removed from the self-titled album, it still gave way for so much heavy metal music to just come ushering back in and say, hey, we're not going anywhere. And in fact, I'm glad to know that y'all still like it
Yeah.
because we just keep getting better at our craft as we go forward.
And if you look at their albums, they do get harder and harder as they go. I mean, is monetarily speaking, like they get thrashier, they get heavier.
Oh,
There's
sure.
like breakdowns
Yeah,
here
yeah, they add
throughout.
more.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like the same thing that Knocked Loose is doing now that they're like super popular. They're playing harder music. They're stepping it up even more.
Yeah.
So it's like, still bending genres.
All right. Well, with that being said, I know it's kind of a long episode, but what a fun conversation. Before
Always.
we go, you have fun at the concert tonight.
Yeah,
my
thank
brother.
you. Yeah,
Have fun
definitely.
evolving.
I won't be.
Yeah.
I won't be there, but
No.
the second form of the Pokemon will be here next week.
His head just like
He has all the metal knowledge.
I mean,
he
I am-
floats down the stairs.
just carried by
levitate.
all of the knowledge of metal.
No,
He's
I
just
have
been
s-
injected.
I have actually been blessed to see Meshuggah twice. Actually, no, just
jealous.
once already in life. It was the Tool show that was supposed to be September 11th, 2001.
Oh,
And then they
wow.
bumped it out 2 days to September 13th.
rough day.
Yeah, rough day. And so I did get to see Meshuggah on that day. I took a shot to the Nads in the pit.
Wow.
So I couldn't breathe for a minute, but I did get to watch Meshuggah perform, and that was way back in the day. So this is going to be a real interesting night for me because now they're the show.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not there to see Tool, and I was there to see Meshuggah for sure. I knew them then, and I was really stoked on them. You already know I was listening to Chaos.
Oh,
Theory.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
making y'all
yeah.
listen to like,
Oh yeah,
dude, this is the hottest thing ever. Meshuggah would, become Meshuggah, and I'm excited to see what they're going to bring tonight. But my wife's, I did find out she's into the Whitechapel somewhat.
Wow.
well
So,
they got
I mean-
some soft shit too.
Yeah, and
Dude,
it breathes more for her. It makes more sense for her. I have
Yeah.
to put music into like her worldview and contextualize it and say, hey, I think this is more going to be your speed. And it was nice discovering that she's going to at least enjoy that a little bit more. Whereas I'm just like, gent me one more time, baby, gent me. Like, just give it to me. And In Flames, I'm going to have fun watching them tonight. So
Let me see that stage,
Well.
the stage setup.
yeah,
for-
I'll
for
snap some photos.
Meshuggah.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
curious.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, and then real quick, Luke, tell us about you, and then where can we find you? And if somebody wants to book some time to get some ink,
Yeah,
let
please do
let
that.
us know what's up.
Yeah, you can contact me on the socials. Third Dimension, custom tattoos on Apple.
Okay.
Awesome.
Boy Ryan Soras.
And
owner.
what's your schedule like? Whenever you got business, you be
Whenever.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only
Cool.
take time off to hang out with my kid. That's it.
All right, and hang
Excellent.
out with the Metal Maniacs today.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
So good
So
to see
Definitely.
you.
so thank you so much for coming on the show, bro.
Thank you
It's,
for having me, man.
You're my brother. You've always been
Absolutely.
my brother.
For
Love
real.
both of you.
Yeah, I love
you,
you
man.
too, man. So thanks for coming on the show.
For sure.
And with y'all, keep it metal, man. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out the episode. Be sure to hit that like button and give us a share.
Yeah, and if you enjoyed our podcast today, please give it a rating on your streaming service to help us gain some exposure.
And if you really enjoyed the show, please give us a follow or hit that subscribe button and come hang out with us every week. And remember, keep it metal.